My gosh, we have a large attendance here. Are cash bonuses being given at the end of the meeting or something, Bill?
Hottest ticket in town.
Well, first of all, today is a special day for many reasons, but we have two birthdays. Marcia, don't look surprised it's your birthday today. You should know that. And how's it feel to be 29 finally? You look good.
That's embarrassing.
And Tom Furlong, where's Tom? Happy birthday, Tom, the birthday boy from Philadelphia. What was that? He's 29 also. And so that I just want to say happy birthday to both of you. Many more, much happiness, much health. We know there's not going to be much wealth, but so we have to go with happiness and health. Please stand and we'll have our invocation, and Trustee Terry Brett's been kind enough to give us the invocation today, and we'll follow that by the pledge to the flag.
Heavenly Father, be with us today as we make decisions to help guide the futures of our youngest. Be with the families of those who lost loved ones in Tucson. Make sure they always know that you are with them all the time and carrying them through what is certainly their darkest hours. Continue to heal and carry those who are recovering, including Congresswoman Giffords. Be with the family of Mr. Loeffner and carry them through this very, very difficult time. We are always thankful for the many blessings that you give us. And we pray for your continued guidance. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Terry. That was beautifully done. Dr. Law, it looks like we have two retirement resolutions. I believe one of our retirement honorees is here.
Can I just, is Carol Vassalon not going to be able to make it? Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have a resolution, come over here. I have a resolution for Ronald Galvani. Known as Ron to his colleagues, began his career as an OPS instructional assistant on the St. Pete Gibbs campus of St. Petersburg College in September 2003. And whereas Ron permanently joined the college family in January of 2004 as a part-time budget employee, and whereas Ron was very knowledgeable in helping students with computer programming and microcomputer applications assignments, and whereas Ron actively participated in helping students who came to the Learning Support Commons for various services, and whereas Ron was very dedicated and tirelessly went above and beyond helping staff and students to achieve their goals, and whereas Ron's work ethic and performance were very professional, and whereas Ron was and still very active in community service, and whereas Ron is wished much happiness in his retirement as he spends time with family and his favorite activities, now therefore be it resolved that the St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees and the total college community hereby recognize and appreciate the outstanding contributions of Ronald Galvani and extend to him our best wishes for enjoyment throughout the years ahead. Said resolution being adopted and approved by the Board of Trustees, St. Petersburg College, 18th day of January 2011. How'd I do?
Very good.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. You want to say a word or two?
Got lots of friends, obviously.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here. I know a few of the people here. I'm not very good with names, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Godspeed. Thank you all for being here.
Congratulations, Ron, and we wish you the best on your retirement. I would now entertain a motion that we approve both retirement resolutions.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made by Mr. Johnston, seconded by Mr. Brett. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Under board comments, I would like to mention that we're trying to get to some of the basketball games. We're having a hard time doing it. I think tomorrow night, there is a women's basketball game at 6 o'clock against Indian River State College, and I believe Mr. Brett and Mr. Gibbons are going to be attending, representing the board, and that's certainly wonderful, and we appreciate you going. I know I'm scheduled to attend one or two of the future games. Not this one, I can't make that, but I will be at some of the future games. I believe on February 1st and 2nd that Mrs. Bilirakis, Mr. Johnston, and Mr. Gibbons are planning to be in Tallahassee. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it, Kim, so I'll get back with you on that, okay? But that's a very good event to be at. Obviously, our state legislators. When will the budget actually be introduced?
February 4th is the...
Oh, after.
Right, okay.
Is there any indication yet, Mr. President, as to, I know it's a mystery in my circles as to what the budget's going to look like in the community college circles, any indicators?
No, just high anxiety.
Right.
If we can take just a second, let us go back through. We certainly, this event in Tallahassee, the Trustees Workshop, has always been a great event. As events have transpired, this is not going to be a committee week. So.
It's not?
No. So we've got good engagement with members of the State Board of Education. Mark Kaplan is going to be with us. We think, we're checking to see that the Senate President will be
Did they cancel
there.
the committee week?
You know, they juggle the schedules as necessary, as the ebb and flow leading up to the session. So we'll give, why don't we see how things settle this week, give everybody last-minute guidance, and then everybody can make a decision as to the benefit of your time invested in that, okay?
Is there any movement to maybe postpone this to another time?
I have not heard that, and generally, you know, they've plunked down some money for the meeting room and some other things, so they've been a little reluctant to do that. I will tell you, Eric Smith is going to be there. I mean, we've got 4 or 5 people who are fully engaged. It's simply not going to be the usual walk around, greet legislators, okay? So we'll, as soon as we know the final, I think today we'll probably get
Maybe
good
they need a more
guidance.
cooperative host, like when we had it at TCC.
Yeah, you know, that might be what's chasing them around. They invited them to visit the William D. Law Learning Center, and that seems to have chilled everybody's enthusiasm.
It's possible for us not to go?
I think we want to give you the full information, but if you think that we're not going to see many of our own legislators up there, okay? The Speaker of the House, Dean Cannon, now lives up there, so he's going to participate. We're working very closely with President Herodopoulos to see if he's going to be there, but there was no guarantee from his office as late as Friday afternoon. We'll just give you whatever information we have. If you decide that
Okay.
your time is better spent or you want to
You may
recycle.
want to have Evelyn invite
Well, that's our next one.
When she went into his office, all work stopped.
If he's in,
He was on TV, I mean, on the radio this morning. He announced.
he announced. If he's in town, we will call you Mrs. Bilirakis, and you can help us, okay? We're not sure what his schedule will look like.
Evelyn, he announced what? I don't,
He's running for Senate,
Oh,
U.S. Senate.
okay. I appreciate the update on that. That's a very important link of information there. The only other item I have to report on, and one of the advantages of having Devron on this board is not only he adds a lot to the board, he opens up opportunities that you normally wouldn't have. And I got invited through Devron to the inauguration, and we went to Governor Scott's inauguration, and it was a good opportunity for FaceTime. Obviously, a lot of legislators were up there for the event, and we got to visit around, not in the halls per se, because that's not what was happening, it was at the events. And we started off early in the morning on Tuesday with a prayer breakfast. Chuck Colson was the guest speaker. Chuck Colson is tremendously moving, and it was not a feel-good message at all. It was a hard-hitting message. It was tremendously warmly received by the thousands of people who were at the event, and it was held at the gymnasium at Florida A&M University. It was that was a great way to start the day. Obviously, they, as what you would think, they had ministers from all types of denominations speaking prayers, giving prayers for the new governor at the event. And so that was, and then Chuck Colson obviously was the highlight of that event. It was quite moving. Then from there, they had the inauguration start at 10. I think it was 11 o'clock, and it's quite a nice ceremony. It was the first time I've been to a governor's inauguration, and it was most of our past governors were there. I think the only one missing was Governor Graham. Claude Kirk, who appointed you originally, was there, and all the other past governors, Governor Martinez, and
I don't know how to take that.
I was going to say, I think it was a compliment.
But it was also just from a interesting angle, including a current governor. The person who received the most applause was when they introduced Jeb Bush. It's just
Yeah, of
interesting to see, the mood of the crowd and that type of thing. But the governor is certainly not a orator like Charlie Crist, Governor Crist, or Governor Bush, where it's just he's a very nuts and bolts guy. His inauguration address was probably, I spoke to a Susan McManus from USF, the political, expert, and we spoke at a very dignified location. We were both in Chiefland at the McDonald's on the way back. And you know why you stop at Chiefland on the way back. And she and I had a good conversation right there about she said it was most different, and she's read the last 50 years of inaugural address, and nothing was like this. And it was very hard-hitting as far as jobs. And I mention that because that's what our mission is, and so it plays well. And so hopefully, when they're looking, and there's no doubt this is going to be a lean budget, a tough budget, but hopefully because of his commitment to jobs, and that's what he devoted his whole inaugural address to, it ties right into us. Education, he talked about like that. It was a line, and it went on. But jobs, which we tie to, you hope he sees the connection there. Basically, there wasn't anything else to the inaugural address. Jobs and the things he talked about, like the regulation, and the other matters were because of their effect on jobs. He didn't go through the platitudes that you would think a normal inauguration address would be about us all working together and getting along and making the state a better place, and just that you think is that you just, there was none of that. There was no quotes. There was no flourishing quotes that you look to and say, oh, isn't that a beautiful quote that people will use in years to come? It was a very business-like address. And so that, and he also had a chance to talk to Will Holcomb, our chancellor, while up there. And he's the one who mentioned to me about the 4 executive orders which came out, immediately upon the new governor becoming inaugurated. So and the other thing which was interesting, having never been to one of these things, is that all the other cabinet officers get installed at the same time, which I didn't realize. You go to a presidential inauguration, only the president, vice president. Here, the other cabinet officers and lieutenant governor all get installed at the same time. Then that evening was they had a parade, and the parade was quite nice. Lots of high school bands from all over the state. And I'll give the governor credit. He really made sure that a lot of poor communities, Immokalee, were from his county. I don't think Naples usually claims Immokalee, but their high school band was there representing Collier County. And then that evening was the inaugural ball, which was just a big waste of thousands of people in the Civic Center, and not much to it. So I would skip that next time if any. But it was a good chance to again see a lot of our legislators, and Devron knows everyone in Tallahassee. It just amazes me to go around with Devron and just be in his wake. So that's my one announcement, that it was an interesting event, and as far as a compass of how it affects our college, it's still uncertain. It'll be interesting come February 4th is the date?
Yes.
That the budget comes out to see how the direction takes place. In our state, though, the governor's budget's only one of the many spokes in the wheel. Is that the way to say it? It's really not, it's not the defining document that probably nationally with the president as much as it is in this state. They do take that budget and chop it up tremendously, and what the governor introduces and what comes out at the end of the legislative session is usually a tremendously different event. So, do you want to speak any on that, Bill?
Well, the only, and I hope perhaps during our workshop today, we might even get a chance to talk about it. The one item that I've got my eye on is the governor seems considerably more laissez-faire on the issue of tuition. And it's mostly a university matter, but it could land on our plate. Long and short is, I think the short course is we could have a lot more flexibility in what we want to do. And that's both a good news and bad news. I think we ought to have a discussion prior to the very end. Let's not wait till May to have that discussion as to what we'd like to do. I'd like to see if we can take, if that occurs, let's talk about a 2 or 3 year budget strategy that's fair to students, fair to faculty and staff, meets our needs, but doesn't try to optimize every dollar we possibly can from students.
And we've talked about as a board before how this could affect us, even like to take the times where the facilities are used the least and put a lower tuition rate on those. In the afternoon, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, have a lower tuition as an incentive for people to sign up during that time to maximize our facility usage. Even different programs with different tuition variables.
We'll see what it looks like, but the universities are very hot on this, and if it happens, you know, I guess I just want us to think before it lands on our plate. That seems to me to be the prudent thing to do. We'll watch to see what it comes out. So that's the only one that I think we'll cycle back around. That we'll be talking about that the last week of the session, is my guess.
Does anyone know who the governor has working on this budget that he's going to deliver in a few more days?
He rehired you see the smile on my face, a good friend and fellow Boston marathoner, Jerry McDaniel, as his chief budget officer. And Jerry's a good hand and knows what's going on. Jerry would not tell me anything that he wouldn't say otherwise. But Jerry is working it very hard, making sure that the new people understand some of the nuances. Kept Scott Kittle in his budget and planning office. So our part is status quo with people who know us pretty well and in the past have been pretty responsive to our needs.
Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Because at a $4 billion shortfall, it's got to affect us in some manner. And we need to kind of anticipate that.
Like Dr. Law said, I wouldn't be surprised to see if he puts a lot more flexibility for the universities and the community colleges, or state colleges as we now are. It'll be interesting to see. I served on a panel this past year with the chancellor from the University of Wisconsin, and I was asking about his state funding and as a public school, and he says we're not a, how did he put it? We're no longer a state school, we're a state assisted school, they call it. He said up there, and you see this University of Michigan's the same way, where their state support is now like 18% of their budget, where before it used to be 40, 50%. And I think that this governor is looking at that type of model and saying, let universities, if they want to charge $12,000 tuition for a year to get into them, that's so be it. And they, you know, right now they're charging around $4,000, I think it is. That's their, and if they can get away with it, let them do it. Whether that's good public policy or not, it's not. But I think you're going to see a lot more. That's the indication what Dr. Law was just saying.
I think we're going to see. I mean, here's my antenna are telling me, watch the tuition issue. The governor's going to put some incentive on jobs. I mean, there's no way he can just let the education piece go without some piece there, but I don't know anything for sure. So I hope we have a chance to talk about that this afternoon.
Good.
Both seem worthy of our best efforts.
Evelyn, do you have any comments you would like to give the board at this time?
You mean about the packet?
Anything?
No, I was just asking about that lease for the osteopaths. Why is it just 1 year, or it said 1 year?
Dr. Law, should we defer that till we get to that?
When we get to that on the item, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay,
Okay, thank you
that
very
was the
much.
only
Okay,
question I had.
good question.
Obviously, someone else is getting phone calls. Mr. Brett?
Just 2 items. First of all, commendations to the leadership team here and Dr. Law. I got a lot of comments from the positive article in the Neighborhood Times about the new direction, if you will, of the college. And my friends in the community who know that I'm associated with this institution always pick up the phone or send me an email, and it was a lot of favorable comments. So
That is great.
congratulations to all of you who are forging that path forward, and to Dr. Law for your leadership on that. It's always good to be out there and get all this good feedback. The other item was, I was happy to see a nice big advertisement in the Times for the new program out at the Strategic Policy Center that's coming up out in Seminole. And it was nice to see that up and running. And to that end, if there was an announcement, I missed it. Do we have a director yet?
As we Catholics would say, stay tuned for the white smoke, okay? We thought we would have one last week. We're doing a little more background check. We're very, very close.
Okay,
So
very good.
we'll let you know.
And a foundation director, do we?
We are at the final interviews for 4 very capable candidates, and that process should conclude prior to the next board meeting, is my guess. Okay, so we're very close on that.
So we'll be looking for 2 puffs of white smoke.
So,
Okay, very good. Thanks. That's it.
I'll give you extra credit if you know the Latin for "we have a pope." With it, Habeas Papam, or something like that. Terry, thank you. Those are great points, and you're right about that. The editorial. Mr. Johnston.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being up there representing us and taking your time to go up.
I only went in Devron's wake. Give him the credit.
That's still the fact that you're there, and I think Terry's comments are ones I would make, so no sense of repeating them, so I had nothing new to add.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections to the minutes that were submitted?
Move approval.
Second?
Motion has been made by Mr. Brett, seconded by Mr. Johnston. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Lang, do you have anything for us today?
Yes, sir. Just a brief report on the Faith United acquisition. In the 13th day of our 15-day due diligence period, we came upon a tank in the ground. Now appears it was 550 gallons. We met with the leadership of the church on the 13th day, and all agreed to the fact we needed another 30 days due diligence. And I think it was an agreeable meeting. We talked about the cost of further excavation and determination as to whether there's any leakage, and the church agreed to split it half and half at this point. And so we're moving forward. The tank ought to be pulled on the 20th, as I understand it, of this month, and we should know something at that point. We obviously still have all of our options open to us after we get it up and see just what we're looking at as to whether we move forward or whether we have other things we have to do.
So do we move to like a phase 2 environmental study at this time?
Depends
or-
on what they find on, when they pull the tank. I guess it's the early level of a phase 2, but if they pull it and it's dry underneath and there's no leakage and there's no sign of leakage, I don't think you have to go to a full phase 2.
And what type of gas is it?
Diesel fuel,
It's fuel oil for their
Fuel oil.
heating.
which I'm told is better than the regular petroleum products. It doesn't spread as far.
Good.
That's all that I have.
Any questions for Mr. Lang? No. Okay, thank you. Suzanne Gardner, certainly nice to welcome you here and have you with us. Do you have any report for us today?
I do not. I don't have a report this month.
Okay, thank you so much and welcome. It's certainly nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Now we hear from our provost report, starting with J.C. Brock from the Allstate Center. Welcome, J.C.
Good morning, thank you. By state statute, each college is required to have a continuity of operations plan. As you know, the past 2 years, we've been working very aggressively in our emergency management preparedness initiatives. I made those presentations to you previously. But you can see the state, bullet number 1, statute requires that every agency have a formal plan. The Department of Education in bullet number 2, Division of Florida Colleges, has mandated that all colleges will submit their plan by March of this year. The COOP, Continuity of Operation Plan, outlines specific policies and procedures that will allow you to maintain your operations during the time of any major disruption of your normal activities. The COOP objectives are stated there. I will not read those to you. You can see them, but pretty much those that we are all familiar with. Fortunately, the majority of the plan that we've been working on for the past 6 to 8 months, the hard work was done in the previous 2 years as we embark on updating our emergency management plan and our hurricane preparedness plan. Building on what Susan Ryder and her staff had done historically, Bill Gray and Dan Bartow has attended several meetings, been intimately involved with what the requirements are, the submission of this plan by March, and we're in very good shape with the majority of the work being done. Our plan is to take this draft COOP plan to our Emergency Management Council later this month or early next month. We're trying to schedule that meeting with Dr. Law's calendar now. Present it to the Emergency Management Council, receive their buy-in, and then we will take the entire plan to the cabinet for review and approval, and then have it submitted to the state by the deadline of March 11th. We will share that plan with you, of course, once it is submitted to the Emergency Management Council and approved by Dr. Law. And then there will be a series of follow-on activities that will be required, that each major department within the college will have to develop a follow-on enhanced plan concerning the specific responsibilities of their departments. So if you've heard about the mandate and requirement, I know we haven't publicized it too much, been working on it, we're in good stead. We will meet the deadline of March 11th, March of 2011, and we'll share that information with you. Any
Jason,
questions,
I
sir?
got a very basic question. The average student at the, let's say, big campus, St. Pete Gibbs campus, okay? There's a hurricane that hits the area. There's disruption, obviously, of service. How do they find out about it? Is there like a central number that students are given to call to find out?
You might recall we have not only the telephone lines, but we have a series of notification processes of our informant cast, and we've got a layered plan of about 3 different capabilities of texting, phone calls, and web activity. But we also have activated our website of emergency management for the college, which has contemporary and timely information is there and available to the student. We update that and maintain it. So we followed the governor's recommendation of his task force of having a multifaceted, multi-tiered plan. So we bombard them in a variety of ways, hoping 1 or 2 of them hits or they read 1 or 2.
Because we have such a wide geographic area, you know, obviously something just affecting Tarpon may not affect the, you know, the St. Pete Gibbs campus.
Absolutely.
So
and this
that's all communicated.
include other type of critical incidents, you know, a shooter on campus, something other than just a hurricane. So the plan is applicable to all emergency crisis critical incident activities.
And just having seen the other material given to us about the demographics of our students so much online, how is the backup for online, is it in several locations or 2 locations as far as the, you know, so many of our students have an online course, so if that one location's down, obviously that would tremendously affect the entire college now.
Our backup, I believe, is in Sanford. Doug,
but how long does that take to get put back together? I know that was part of the Seminole Community College?
Yes. Our disaster recovery can come up within 24 hours.
Okay.
Mr. Brock, I'm glad that you're presenting today because there's been a lot of press out in Tucson regarding Pima Community College and their response to Mr. Loeffner and his behavior on campus. And from my perspective as a complete outsider, just the things I've seen on the news, it appears that they handled that situation appropriately. Do you have any insights on that or anything that we can learn from that?
Well, Bill Gray has been monitoring and compiling all the information that from a variety of resources that he's involved with, of different officers, emergency managers throughout the country, security people, Dan Bartow, and they have compiled a whole series of documentation, and we've actually shared some of it with Cabinet, talking about some of the positives and negative outcomes of that investigations. But, you know, really I know no more than what's been in the press. It seems as if they followed all proper protocols. They had a system in place at their college. They followed it, turned it over to law enforcement. And this was really an exceptional case whereby the person, seems everything was done right. It doesn't seem as if it was going to be stopped.
Dr. Law?
If, Mr. Chairman, if we take just a minute, the senior staff reviewed fully our procedures on this matter, and let me take just a second to assure you, I'm very comfortable that we have in place all of the requisite steps to alert us. You can never, I want to be careful, there is nothing that would keep a bad event from happening from a determined person. The most important things, though, that we do that I think are critical is that we have communications in place. If a person pops up on the radar, we now have the ability to make sure others know that a student has demonstrated overt type behaviors that have caused us. And that's not kept localized. It's not in a silo. So we have it both in a formal process, a SharePoint site on the web where the key players can access that information, so we're sharing it across. Here's the big secret. A student who pops up on one place is likely to pop up again. And when the students start showing up on the radar, that's when you want to intervene. I know that we have in place the ability to counsel with and then at times to expel students who are a danger to other students. I know we have done that since I'm here, and it's not I'm not bragging on that, but it is the unfortunate reality that sometimes we must do that. I have asked Suzanne Gardner, who is, by the way, our new, she's acting general counsel, to review how far the limit of the college ability to move people on. Our policy has been to intervene, stabilize, make sure of the safety of all involved, and then pass the student to community-based organizations. We are not in the mental health business, and that is very harsh, but that is really what we have to do, and I'm reviewing that part, what the handoff looks like, to see how it works. So I'm bragging. It was in place before I got here. I think it's as sound as we can be. I had a brief, Roy Flores, who's the chancellor out there, is a good friend of mine, and I sent him a little note to buck him up a little bit, and I'll get a chance to get the insight. But I share that they have done what you would expect us to do.
And if I recall correctly, also, that community college actually has a police force, which is accredited police, whatever you call them. They have arresting things that we don't have in the state of Florida for our, so I mean, it's a little bit different. And just in reading about that student too, he had unusual behavior, but I don't think it was threatening behavior, a lot of his comments and so forth. So I mean, I'm sure you deal with that, you know, laughing out loud in the middle of, you know, the class and so forth with a lot of his behaviors. Just it is an interesting, I'm sure AACC is going to have all types of seminars in the, you know, dissecting this and doing what we can learn from it. I know Walter Bumpus has already contacted the college to offer any support that other community colleges can give and so forth, but it's going to be interesting to see the learning that Mr. Brett brings up from this. Mr. Johnston.
I called Dr. Law, and I wonder, you know, this student was publishing some articles on Facebook. And I know Facebook, I've never looked at, so I don't really know. But I assume other students do. And I don't know whether there's a process, and I talked to Dr. Law about this, if we could involve student government, because the students probably are just as aware as faculty of the problem, and if there's a way that they could confidentially report back through maybe even the president's office or somewhere where they'd feel very secure, or some nominee the president would make, but to let student government participate in this, because the students are probably more aware of the potential problems than we are. The faculty, I'm sure, is aware of them too, but we're leaving out a whole resource of 30,000 students out there who if we made it comfortable enough for them, not they're going to be tattletales, but we're trying to help people rather than cause these incidents. And somehow or other, it seems to me that we've got 30,000 eyes and ears out there, and they're the ones that are tweaking in Facebook and whatever else the students do that I don't do, that they could let us know in some manner if they feel a potential or see a potential problem and include that in our process. How we do it, I don't know, because I would feel uncomfortable if I was a student just saying, oh, Ken Brooks doing this, you ought to watch him. That isn't what we're talking about. But we'd have to make it understandable to everybody that we're working together on this.
Very insightful, Mr. Johnson. You're going to get into all types of very sensitive student issues with this stuff, and that's why,
That's why I'm just making a suggestion to look at it, because I don't know the ramifications.
It's a good suggestion.
And I'm sure AACC's, again, these are the types of seminars we're going to be looking at. It's, you get into, I'm sure, Terry, you have college-age students. They get into that website, which they know all about the professors, that Rate a Professor website before they sign up. And, who knows what information's, we see some of our faculty governance people back there, accurate, how much is inaccurate, how much is, just, well, I didn't do a very good job as a student, I'm going to get at that professor. That's where you get into all these types of issues with this stuff. I'm sure your kids use it. I know my kid do. But it's a topic, I think, it's a national topic, Dick. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Long?
Yes, sir.
Well, it has to be, because, we're laid out in such a configuration. We're not a secure institution. We're a public place.
Right.
And anything can happen. There could even be suspicious people just wandering around campus. And in this day and age, you just have to assume that anything can happen, but you want to protect the students, the faculty, the staff, as best we can.
And we have special issues at our college where we have community libraries on there, so it's not just they're not just on our campus, they're at a community library or a congressman's office, it even makes it, trying to secure our campus even more.
Well, it's impossible.
Yeah, you're right. Mr. Brett, I appreciate you bringing this discussion up.
Yeah, and I know we talked a little bit after Virginia Tech, too, about that tragedy and what we were doing right and how we could improve. I have every confidence that the plan in place is a great one. And I just, the first thing that popped in my mind when I started seeing reports about Pima Community College is, where are we on this? And I'm glad that you've got your finger on the pulse and you're going to be, I'm sure, analyzing the reports as they come in. And
it's a constant review process.
Yeah.
It's
So,
a
thank you.
dynamic plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Copper Lee, Dr. Carney.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This morning I am delighted to highlight and share with you about the Learning Support Commons on the Tarpon Springs campus. The Learning Support Commons on our campus, which we sometimes call the LSC, is truly a mecca for students who are seeking tutoring and academic assistance outside the classroom. The mission of the Learning Support Commons is to meet the needs of the students and to help students achieve success as learners, to help students at all levels become better learners and to gain the confidence and skills they need to achieve their greatest possible academic success. And in terms, of course, that also increases student retention. In keeping with this mission, the tutoring services offered by the Learning Support Commons include various math courses, English courses, science courses, communications, accounting, computers, and others. In addition to these services, the Learning Support Commons also support students on test preparation, and it supports students and faculty by administering student makeup tests. Now, on the Tarpon Springs campus, the Learning Support Commons is located in the Fine Arts Building, which also houses the campus's library and the Leeper Ratner Museum. The Learning Support Commons is composed of comprised of 2 rooms located within the library and adjacent to the library computer commons. The 2 rooms are equipped with 56 study stations, 19 laptop computers, whiteboards, learner textbooks, and other tools and resources that are needed for our students. The Tarpon Springs Learning Support Commons even includes a certain body part models, as you can see in the picture to the far right there. Those are body part models for anatomy and physiology. It's an arm and a leg that also is used in tutoring our students in A&P. How many students visit our commons? The number of students seeking tutoring services at the Learning Support Commons has seen a continuous increase over the last 3 years, with about 5,800 visits in fall of 2008 and growing to about 6,700 visits in the fall of 2010, and that's shown at the bottom of the chart. These student visit numbers are tracked and counted by a college-wide system called the Who's Next system. The Who's Next system is located next to the entry of each of our Learning Support Commons rooms, and students are required to log into those computers when they enter for services. How do we get the word out to our students about these services? There are several methods that we use in communicating about the Learning Support Commons to our students. One is at the new student orientations that we hold each fall for first-time in college students. Our full-time Learning Support Commons staff participates in that and provide an overview of the services that we offer in our Learning Support Commons. They also visit classrooms each fall, the math class, the English class, and other classes, to share an overview in the classroom about the services that are in the Learning Support Commons. This creates a tutoring partnership between the student, the faculty, and the Learning Support Commons staff, and it works out very well. There are also referrals by faculty to the Learning Support Commons, as well as referrals by our student affairs staff in the MAP centers for students to use the Learning Support Commons. Then there are bookmarks and there are websites and Angel system reports and what have you. Emphasis are placed on the fact that the Learning Support Commons services are free to all of our students, as well as to the GED students that are served on our campus. Current staffing. Currently, our Learning Support Commons is staffed with 2 full-time staff members, 3 part-time staff members, and up to 8 trained student tutors that we hire as student workers. We also have volunteers working on our staff as well. This staff creates a welcoming, supportive, and energetic environment that promotes connection, collaboration, and academic success of our students. Before closing, let me share with you a student success story, and this success story comes from the annual Learning Support Commons student survey that we take. This student states, "I enjoy the environment and the staff at the Learning Support Commons. I do not seem to be a burden to the tutors or the library staff. Everyone I've met and interacted with seems to genuinely care, and the students' academic success is most important. Academic success is why I visit the library 7 days a week, and I am in the Learning Support Commons 6 days a week. I prefer to work in the Learning Support Commons area because I feel it feels like a classroom and help is only a hand raise away." In closing, let me share with you that the Tarpon Springs campus is a major contributor to the total number of graduates college-wide, and given the large number of students that use our Learning Support Commons, there is little doubt that the Learning Support Commons and its dedicated staff also play huge roles in contributing not only to the academic success on our campus, but also to the college-wide retention and graduation rates. I thank you for this opportunity to highlight our Learning Support Commons, and I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Mr. Johnston.
Dr. Converly, this seems like a real plus as long as it's used by students, and apparently the one student you had, and I hope that's a reflection of all of them, because we wouldn't want the students to feel like they're second-class citizens who need to come there, that this is something open and they can use at their discretion. Is this open on just certain times of the Monday through Friday?
We're open Mondays through Thursdays from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. at night. On Fridays, we're open from 9 until 1, and on Sundays, we're open from 1 until 5.
So you do have some weekend time.
We absolutely have support for weekends, yes.
I think that's excellent, because not all students, probably some of them working, can usually fit those hours in, and we want to make it just as welcome, because obviously it'll help a lot of students.
We think it's a great plus and service for our students, and as I said before, we think it adds to retention as well as our graduation rates here at the college. And this is not the only campus that has this, and you'll hear Dr. Oliver talk about his learning support commons as well.
Thank you.
Mrs. Belrakis, you have a question?
No, I was going to say, do the other campuses have it? And they do, right?
Yes, we have learning support commons at, I know most of, 4 of the major campuses, and perhaps even the others as well.
Mr. Brett?
Was it started in fall of '08?
Does it start in the fall?
Was it started? When did you start the
Oh,
learning?
that's a good question. Actually, on the Tarpon Springs campus, the Learning Support Commons actually started in the 1970s. So it's been around for a long time. I had the opportunity to talk to, in fact, the faculty who started the Learning Support Commons on our campus, Dr. Laura Smith, is now an academic chair on our campus as well. And so it's a lot of history behind this Learning Support Commons at the Tarpon Springs campus.
Dr. Carney, I'm so glad you kept mentioning retention and completion in your remarks. I know today in our retreat, we're going to be devoted to our college mission and our goals and so forth. And in reviewing them, some of them were very specific, and then some of them were very nebulous as far as, how do we, and this is an area which obviously the board has great interest in, how do we measure the success of these things? And I certainly don't know how, but is there any model out there where we're saying these learning support things are effective because we can show they've done this, or is there really no way to measure their effectiveness?
The measure that we're taking on campus now is, like I said before, when the student visit, there is a possibility that we can measure how long they actually use the Learning Support Commons at each visit. We haven't done that yet. The way that we do it now is that we take an annual survey and get the students' feedback, and that's the primary way that we measure it. Although college-wide, we're looking at measuring retention in I think, a more systematic way, which we'll talk about later in this presentation.
With that angel system, are we able to tell the students who visit this, and let's spend 4 hours here, or 6 hours a semester, or 8 hours a semester, are retaining better, or coming back, or are succeeding better than a student who doesn't come to the support center? Are we able to measure that?
That, I don't have that measurement.
Okay.
We've talked about.
It may be something we talk about today. Thank you. Any other? Great presentation.
Thank you.
Dr. Oliver.
I want to thank Confolite for setting me up to talk about the Commons. Actually, there's a reason why Dr. White last month talked about the Commons, and Confolite and I today are focusing on the Commons. As at other sites, the Commons at Seminole is a mecca for student learning, for student activity, and for student support. A lot goes on there. Just as our campuses are different, though, our Commons are different. And each of us has approached our comments from a unique perspective. I'd like to start by asking Julie Carr, a staff assistant who works in the Commons, to respond to a couple of questions. Good morning, Julie. It's great to see you. Tell us, why do you think the Commons are so popular with students?
That's a good question. I think the Commons have become more popular for several reasons, actually. We have a pretty welcoming environment here, and students tell me that they prefer sometimes to work in the Commons rather than have the distractions of home. Our college enrollment is up, and so obviously our usage is up here in the Commons. And today's students tend to be economically conscious, so they try to, some of them prefer to use our facilities rather than purchase some expensive software and equipment at home. The instructors at St. Pete College are also using the latest technologies, and so we do keep up with that, and our equipment has been upgraded. As student services has been moving more towards online, more offices than ever are referring students here to use My SPC and financial aid functions that are available online. So I think those are some good reasons why we become real popular.
Thanks, Julie. You mentioned enrollment. What changes have you noticed as we've grown so dramatically?
Some changes, yes, there have been changes that I've seen in the Commons. Overall, we have had, like we mentioned, an increase in usage. It's been very busy. At times, we don't even have computer stations available for students when we're at peak usage. We've also had an increase in our computer equipment checkout, especially among our digital media students. And we've been moving from working, I'm sorry. Our students have been changing from working on assignments in the lab, and now we see more students that are working on academics as well as student service features.
Thanks, Julie. Good to see you this morning. I'll let you get back to it. See you later this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Julie mentioned several important points in her comments. First, the significant increase in usage. Confolite's stats this morning noted just tutoring hours, but the numbers on this chart reflect the Seminole Commons hours, student hours in the Commons, total student hours in the Commons. And at the high point of the year, you see that's about 12,000 hours per month, which I did the math. It equates out to about 92 students filtering through in a month, in an hour, on an average hour that month. These are students who come and stay for a significant amount of time, so they are duplicated if they stay multiple hours. But it gives you some idea of the tremendous impact those spaces have. Now, enrollment at Seminole is up 42% in classroom-based courses alone in the past 3 years. But the use of the Commons is up even more than that. Julie also referred to multiple uses. The Seminole campus actually has 2 Commons. First is the Learning Support Commons, like the one referenced by Confolite and Karen, with its focus on tutoring and individual open access work, including software that may be part of a lab section of a class. The second Commons at Seminole might be cast as a departmental lab at the other site, but our collaborative Commons is an open access lab, even though it is a favorite hangout for our digital arts, digital media students who work in the soundproof booth and check out the equipment that Julie mentioned this morning. As you might expect, based on its name, the Collaborative Commons is a little noisier than the Learning Support Commons, since our students work together in that space on projects and presentations. The Collaborative Commons also doubles as our MAP center, My Answer Place Center. During the heavy registration times, when classes are not in session, we cross-train and shift our staff to be part of the registration team, assisting students as they run into hiccups trying to self-navigate the PeopleSoft systems. This creative use of space on campus has been essential as our enrollment has grown faster than our ability to provide room to house it. We're exploring further development of the multipurpose open lab concept as we look to expand and create a more academic environment in that space. That yet to be named Commons, and Kim Wolf is here and she's been working on it with me. We're very excited about it. We'll focus on library instruction, a place for faculty to bring classes that might benefit from a class period or 2 during the term with hands-on use of computers, and a potential after-hours open access student venue for when the other Commons are closed. We don't have hours at this point on the weekends at Seminole. So stay tuned. While we're not sure what it will look like yet, we fully intend to continue to innovate in an effort to improve student success at Seminole, and expect the Commons to be right in the middle of it. Thank
Questions?
you.
Mr. Johnston?
Your presenter there, Dr. Oliver, mentioned the online students. Is there any correlation of usage between online students and the standard classroom students? Because I would think if I was an online student and I had capabilities of getting there, this would be an ideal situation to supplement my online work. I would have other students and additional help that I couldn't feel I could get online.
I think that's a very good point. We don't keep statistics on whether a student is online or face-to-face. And remember that 72% of the online students live in Pinellas County. So many of them, probably most of them, are taking courses face-to-face as well. In my class, for example, I always encourage, my online class, I always encourage students to go to the Commons and to meet with folks at the Commons staff, because it provides just the kind of assistance outside of class you're mentioning.
I think that's a tremendous advantage for online students. it also gets them to where they're meeting with certain faculty and other students, and certainly I would encourage that usage. And if the resources were available, I would think weekend timing, having these open on weekends for students in all the campuses would be something that we should try to promote and encourage.
Thank you.
Other questions? Dr. Oliver, good report and great use of technology.
Very good, and I'd like to thank Mr. Brett for his comment about the healthcare forum tomorrow night on the Seminole campus. I do want you to know that we do have a few more seats, but this is the first in a series of 3 on healthcare, and we already have 286 individuals who are reserved, and we're doing that in the conference center, so there's seating for 400.
And I'm sorry, I missed about this. What is the purpose of this event?
This is the first of probably 3 healthcare forums. Senator Jones and Janet Long have been working on it, along with Karen Seal, to talk about the healthcare issue. This first one is fact versus fiction, and it features Mr. Farley, who's the Pulitzer Prize-winning author from the St. Pete Times, PolitiFact, to introduce it, and then we've got a couple of panelist responses. And the next one is going to be for providers, and we're looking to bring somebody from Washington in for that one.
And what time is this tomorrow evening?
Tomorrow night from 6 to 8.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Ulmer.
Good morning,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Law. Good morning. We all know that Dr. Law thinks in terms of numbers. Those of you who know me know that I think in terms of songs. And my song for 2011 is I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. And my number is number 1. The number 1 represents many firsts that SBC Downtown and Midtown will be experiencing in the coming year. As I discuss each of the areas we are celebrating first, you will note that in every case, the activities tie directly back to Dr. Law's 7 major focus areas and 24 observable projects in the SPC 724 initiative. One of the key areas of the 724 initiative is managing growth and faculty hiring and replacement plan. For the first time, we will have our own full-time faculty. This year, 5 full-time faculty will become part of the SPC Downtown and Midtown family. The 3 R's will be represented with reading, writing, and arithmetic faculty. We will also be hiring faculty for political science and computer technology. For the first time, we will be engaging in master planning for Downtown and Midtown to address the future growth of both sites. The master planning process involves expansion of facilities and programs, guaranteed scheduling, and systematic improvements to increase student success. Some of the facilities improvements that are on the drawing board for downtown include a bookstore, food services, faculty and administrative offices, and additional classrooms and science labs. A number of possibilities are being explored to address the continued growth of our Midtown site. Another critical area of the 724 initiative involves increased public accountability and student retention. We all appreciate the importance of students being able to receive help outside of class to increase their academic skills and persist until they complete their requirement for graduation. For the first time this spring, downtown students will have an opportunity to enjoy a brand new, vibrant, beautifully designed tutoring center where they will receive help in communications, mathematics, science, computer technology, and library services. The center was modeled after the very successful Learning Support Commons at Tallahassee Community College. This afternoon, we are holding the grand opening of the new tutoring center. As part of the grand opening, we will be presenting a plaque to the Jackson family in memory of Lonnie Jackson Jr., one of our downtown, midtown tutors who was killed in a car wreck over the Christmas holidays. Other retention initiatives at downtown and midtown include the appointment of a faculty champion to encourage, mentor, and serve as a role model for our male students. Ernest McDonald, a member of our adjunct math faculty, will provide the support for our SPC downtown and midtown male students as part of the SPC Male Outreach Program. Finally, the 724 initiative addresses a focus on improvements in the area of student success and student support systems. In terms of student support, for the first time, downtown and midtown students will have financial aid and disability services 2 days a week at both sites. Student support also involves removing barriers and streamlining processes. As you know, SPC downtown is currently the only site with a parking garage, and students must purchase a parking hang tag to park in the garage. Historically, this has created long lines, particularly at the very peak times of registration when students are trying to buy their hang tags. For the first time this spring, students were able to purchase their hang tags online. So over 100 students took advantage of this opportunity, significantly decreasing the lines at the front desk. In closing, I would just like to say I am so pleased with the great strides we've made in the last 6 months at downtown and midtown. And I am so excited for where we're headed in 2011, using the 724 initiative to guide our priorities. Thank you.
Questions for Mrs. Ulmer? Great report. We appreciate it. Although we don't have a FGO report this month, we will have one next month. I would like to point out to our FGO representative, I see at least one here, that obviously with our trip to Tallahassee and the budget and pension reform is going to be a big item in this legislative session, and it's something we as board members need to help advocate on behalf of the faculty and staff and administrators here at the college. And so we certainly want FGO's input as to your feelings as things get revealed on these different proposals and things start to gel up as to how we can advocate, because it's a matter of education too. If we want long-term employees, you have to offer some long-term benefits, and so we just want to be real careful, I hope as a state, as to how we, the extent of reform. Senator Jones, you're here. Do you have any comments on that as far as, we know we're going to see reform, it's just a matter of how extensive it will be, I assume?
I would just say at this point, I can't imagine it would be retroactive. I think whatever we would do would have to move forward. Looking at the last 5 years of state employees not even getting a raise, I can't even imagine could we do anything to be detrimental to them at this point.
In those comments, and I know I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball, which is hard to do this session, do you think that includes any, for those currently enrolled, as far as drop, if they can enter drop, or will that be looked at this year?
I think it'd be looked at, but I just find it hard. I don't serve on that committee, but I just can't feel that anybody would impact somebody who's already got a contractual relationship with the state.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'd be very surprised if they did. But I do see some changes in the future.
Anyway, I think that's something FGO wants to keep a close eye on, and keep, and I hope that you include that in your comments to the board, just as to how we could help in that support, because, well, I should be the exception to this. The rest of the folks, though, in this room don't have a vested stake in that themselves, but they, and oftentimes that makes the best advocates up in Tallahassee, someone advocating for someone else.
Our game plan is to push the problem onto county employees, Mr. Chairman, okay? That's really what we're working very hard behind the scenes to.
I'm sure Bob LaSalle is fine with that. Clerk employees are quasi-state.
We don't care.
What's that?
Them too.
Them too. Let's move on to new business. We have a, which we have now as part of each agenda, our student success and achievement. Now, Dr. Law, you gave us each of these reports, and each board member has looked at these. Do you have a presentation, or if we should we just go report by report questions for you?
Give me a little bit of guidance. It's very important to me, the cohort report, two things are important. Who's here, so you have a sense. Some of this is preliminary for this afternoon, okay? And if we could devote some time now, Mr. Chairman, that would be helpful. If you want to change the order of march, we can make the presentation a little later. But I would very much like to be sure everybody understands what our trend looks like, what are the key findings, and move forward.
You tell us, what do you prefer?
I'd like to make the presentation, and I'll ask Patrick to keep it as tidy as we can, so.
This afternoon?
No, I'd like to do it now. if
Do
we
it
could.
now.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
that's
you.
fine. I
All
didn't
right.
know how you want to
Okay.
go on this. For the holiday yesterday, we didn't have our usual
And we didn't touch base,
conversations.
that's correct.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of
Good
the
morning.
board, Dr. Law. Waiting for this to come up, okay. You'll recall that in September, we presented.
Patrick, let me interrupt. Just,
Yes.
would you prefer that we wait till questions till each report's finished, or should we ask as we go through it?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay.
Whichever we can.
Why don't we ask as we go through it then? Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. You'll recall in September, we presented information to you about what our opening fall class looks like. This is the same information for our opening spring term class, which, as you know, spring classes started last week. This is head count data on credit-seeking students only, so we're not including corporate training, non-credit students. Okay, and as you can see here, we had substantial growth. We have 32,164 students enrolled day one last week, 8.7%. Our student semester hour growth is, as of this morning, is about 7.7%, so right in line there. I've not seen a formal report from the state, but we did ask other colleges last week where they are, and it ranged from being flat to Seminole State College being up 11%. Most were in the 5 to 6% growth. As we saw with the fall term, the largest percent growth was in our workforce students. These are our AS, AAS certificates, and then we also see a big growth in our baccalaureate students, 17%.
Patrick, this is where I had my first question.
Sure.
On the undeclared, which to me seems tremendously high, why aren't we finding out that information? And when I got to the retention report and saw those are the students who have the highest rate of failure of retention, it really concerned me that we don't have more information on these 6,000 students. And because they're undeclared, they tend to fail. I mean, it looks to me, I mean, that's from a non-academic looking at these statistics. So what efforts are we making there, and why is it this way?
Well, first, let's define who they are. They are students who are undeclared, they're non-degree, but it also includes our dual enrolled students, our early college students, our high school students. But by and large, they are students who are enrichment. They've come here, they haven't selected a major yet. We did send out an invitation to roughly 5,000 students this fall to come in to our counseling centers and meet with a career counselor and select a major. I think about 1,500 students took us up on that offer.
Okay, do you think that we should further divide this class then? To me, a dual enroll student, if it's a good percentage of these, obviously, they're not looking to achieve the same thing as our AA workforce and BS students. Should they be put in a separate category so they're not, I don't mean to sound self-serving, but they're hurting our completion rate, and if they have no intention, if that's their thing is to take credit while in high school, Dr. Law?
I think you're right on, it's a counting issue right now, okay? So this is how we have historically counted. I think we ought to subdivide that group. Trust me, the dual enrollment students are goal-oriented. They're headed in the right direction. We need to separate and find those students who don't have enough direction, and those are the ones that I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
We can do that pretty simply
I think
here.
you're right on, Mr. Chairman.
You're right on the top.
That our dual enrollment, our high school students, they're here for a different purpose. And to put them into this mix, they shouldn't be. Because they know what they want, and they don't particularly, they might even want to continue their education here. But they're, for whatever reason, have found this to be an acceptable high school or dual enrollment program, and they're meeting their objective. And
need to measure
to
that.
to put them in undeclared is a misnomer, because I think they know exactly what they're doing, and they may not want an AA degree.
Understand this is, I mean, this is the difference between state reports and management data. If you don't have a major, you don't get financial aid. So that was always
why-
the big
that's how this is
separation,
defined. I
okay?
get you.
Count those who are financial aid eligible or not. You're good. Next time we show it, we'll break those out, okay? The ones that we think are, need our attention.
You know, another comment, Patrick, probably in the paper a week or so ago, it talked about our AA degrees in comparison to employment and wages compared to the state system, which I thought was very, very complimentary to the community college system. And that's really probably shown here that, and I assume that's our workforce group, and some of those are very high paid when they on completion.
Were you contacted on that editorial?
I was not.
That's just, it's interesting.
I thought that was a tremendous eye-opener. I've always thought that, but then I've always been prejudiced.
Right.
And I'm glad everybody else has come along with us. I think that just, it touts the success of the community college system.
And I think that's reflected in the number where the growth in AA was only 2.8%.
Right.
Students want to come and get to work.
Right.
Except now that student getting the AAS degree is going to expect $47,000. Everyone saw that figure.
Those are the AS students that
AS,
we're
that's
talking
what I'm
about.
talking
That's right, yeah, okay.
And that's something that we ought to convey to the new governor. I mean,
That's
to
true.
me, this is where his growth in jobs has to
You're
come
right.
from. I
That's-
told him that, but he didn't listen.
Oh, he mentioned.
Okay, this slide
Well,
shows
right.
of the 32,000 students, how many were continuing, meaning that they were enrolled at the college within the last year, how many were new, and how many were returning after being absent for a year. Huge growth in continuing students. Again, I think evidence of the economy. Students want to finish their credential and get to work.
Do you have any feel of when the unemployment rate gets back to a normalcy, whatever that is, how that's going to affect our enrollment? Because we're seeing tremendous growth, and that's been typical in a time of high unemployment. And we get back to a normalcy, if we ever do, I would suspect, and I don't know, you're the expert on it, what you think they'll do to these growth rates.
Well, certainly, I don't think that we can sustain the growth rates that we've had. I mean, we've had double-digit increases up until this term for the last year and a half, and that can't be sustained. It's somewhat of a crystal ball, but I would think that we'd be looking at less than 5% once the economy stabilizes.
Because our whole population is pretty much stabilized in our county, which is where we have representation. So I think that's something we can probably discuss this afternoon. In the way we look at the future, I just don't see our enrollment, maybe even, we may have some decreases in enrollment and how we anticipate and work with those.
I think we will.
Okay, this slide shows the full-time, part-time breakout of financial aid recipients. This was a phenomenon we saw in the fall term, large growth in part-time students receiving financial assistance. Mr. Bennett informed me on Friday that through the first 5 months of this academic year, we've already received more financial aid applications than we received in the entire 12 months last year.
Okay. This slide, I think when we go to DC and go visit our congressmen, our 2 U.S. senators, which, by the way, Dr. Law helped me in this, and talking to Dr. Holcomb, instead of each college making an appointment with our U.S. senators, we're doing it as a group of all Florida going to visit together, which will be a lot more effective, because when Devon and I went to Senator Lemieux's office and started handing our sheet to his education rep, She said, I've got this 4 other times so far from other people, so make a much better impression if we do it unified. But that's not my point here. I was shocked. This is over 50% of our students are here because of financial aid. Is it 2/3, Dr. Law, you said?
Eventually, 2/3 of our students get some form of aid.
And this increase in our part-time and full-time, the 29%, Mr. Bennett, I might thank you for you and your staff, because I'm sure we don't have enough staff in this area, and this is something will be part of the discussion this afternoon, is because I saw your commitment in the overriding to student services. But this shows how important the work that we're going to do, because this aid is federal. You know, for the most part, it's federal aid, and this is something, this is a phenomenal slide. A lot of information was packed in this slide as far as just the sheer numbers of our students who receive it, and then the increase in this past year. It's a very powerful slide, which we need to take to DC with us.
And this next slide,
And what's non-awarded mean?
not awarded, they're not receiving financial assistance.
Oh, okay, okay. I get you.
We grew from proportionately about 51% of our students last spring receiving federal financial assistance to 57% this spring.
Okay.
Now, when you say, would this include if they had private loans? It does. So this is all of any financial aid.
But the private loans are made through the college, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know whether we tracked that or not.
Okay, this slide shows the enrollment by ethnicity, and we had almost 1,000 more African-American students enrolled last week than we did last spring, 26% increase. The Hispanic population grew at almost 21%.
Now, is there a particular reason for that? Is that our expansion in Midtown? Is it because we're
Exactly.
working on the Afro-American male? Or is there something we can point to because of these increases?
It's the growth in the enrollment at downtown Midtown.
Including with the
Primarily.
Hispanic? I would think the Hispanic would be mainly
I
Clearwater.
was referring to the African-American.
But Hispanic is Clearwater?
Hispanic is Clearwater.
Mainly Clearwater? I don't mean to.
Yes.
What's not identified? They didn't
They didn't
check
select an ethnicity at the time of application, which it is an optional field.
Okay.
Okay, this shows the growth by age brackets, and this phenomenon, again, was true in the fall term. Our older student body is growing faster than our traditional 21 and under.
Tied to unemployment there.
And this is by gender. We did have a 9.4% increase in our male students last week over last spring.
I guess the part, and I was glad to hear Mrs. Ulmer mention this, and I know we always talk about this, but although we've increased this, the retention rate among males, when we get to that, is still under the retention rate for females. And so I'm glad we're seeing these programs to focus in on retention and success. Big gap.
And then by instructional modality, we saw an 11% growth in students who were only taking online courses year over year, as opposed to only a 5% growth in the traditional brick and mortar. Go ahead.
This is a very interesting, because this means that the necessity of classroom, of building buildings, comes into play. You need some space, but you probably don't need the traditional amount of space that we thought at one time to handle a certain number of students.
That's true.
But let me ask you, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Renard. Is there any breakdown that shows that maybe the non-traditional student over 35 is taking online courses or vice versa? Who's taking the most?
I don't have any hard and fast data. Certainly, it's attainable.
I think that'd be interesting
The baccalaureate programs can probably attest to the fact that some of their programs are only online, and they do have an older student population.
And I asked that question, Dr. Law, just because Dick is talking about space. If the non-traditional, or if it's what we call the traditional student, whoever's taking that, it may be peak times that we can only do online courses and still not have to utilize the facilities, or on Fridays. So that's why I asked that question, so that when we're looking at our space needs, we could really look at who's utilizing that.
That's exactly, we're not going to focus on space this afternoon, we're going to focus on programs, but we are working to bring you that report. But I think you've got it just right. If the long-term growth is in the 4, 5, 6% range, you might be able to achieve long-term growth in the 4, 5, 6% range, online or blended, and really reduce your footprint and all of your bricks and mortar needs, still meet student needs. That's the dialogue we're having. Well, how does it work best for students?
Well, I think it's something that we need to address, and I would just guess, Deborah, on your question, that I have friends my age don't even have computers, period. They wouldn't address it at all. They could never go into an online course. I think I would have difficulty making it work. I've tried it a couple times, and it just frustrates the daylights out of me. And I think that's because I didn't grow up with it. The student today, and last night I had my wife's godson, who's in computer science at Eckerd, come by and help set up her laptop for her. I gave her my laptop because hers was old. And he knew exactly what to do. He was all over the place. I had no idea what he was doing. But it's those students, I think, that grew up with these computers are the ones that are probably going to be using it, and they'll use it for life. And I think that's the kind of things that, what was interesting here is how we plan for the future with these numbers.
Not only that, I think, to piggyback on that, Dick, I think you may be right. But we need the data to support what we're going to do. And then secondly, some of these young people think that they can take online courses and they haven't been as successful. So we need to really have the data to say, look, some of these folks thought that they could take these classes. Here's how many times they've taken this because they took it online first. They were not successful. And we don't really want to push these students into an online situation. We want to be able to have, I think, that mixed feel that you talked about, Dr. Law, so that, because some of them feel like they're ready for, and I think we had this discussion a couple meetings back, some of them feel like they took advanced courses in high school, and then they feel like they're ready and they can do these online courses, and they get themselves in trouble because they realize nobody's there, mom, dad, nobody's there to tell you to study. They get behind, and I've seen it happen to some of these students. In fact, yesterday I saw a bunch of students, and one of them was telling me about, we need a minority program, which I want to talk about at the retreat, talking about it. We needed a program for minority students for the nursing program because it's so difficult. They get lost. They think that they know what they're doing, and by the time they get down the road, they're like, well, my GPA is not high enough, and we really need to talk about that. But long and short, because I think a lot of these young people feel like they can take these online courses and then they get themselves in trouble. They kind of get behind and have to go back and take them. So I want to have the data to support whatever we do, but I really want to see who's taking them and how successful they've been at it. And then we can go. I think that will help everybody when we're talking about moving forward.
Well, I think, I'm not sure if you were here when we were talking about the common areas, the commons they call them, where students can come in for help. And I think that's exactly where we need to guide some of these students who are having these problems, if we could track them, to encourage them to go into these commons where they can they're trying to do things online and they get lost and give up. And our retention, you can see it, goes down because they don't either feel comfortable or they're afraid or whatever it is. That idea of these commons, to me, is a salvation for these students who come in and just close their book, and I did that in college algebra. I just shut the book and walked out because I knew I was in over my head because I didn't have the math background, so I ended up becoming an accountant. I was trying to be an engineer. But that, I think that's what happens. The students get so frustrated, they don't know what to do, so they just hit the door. But Devon's right. If we can get more information, we'll know how to forecast what's ahead for us.
Let's get through. We'll just cross-tabs this stuff. We should be able to measure across these slides, and we'll give you a different presentation next
I
time.
think
Good
Mr. Johnson's
guidance.
right, though, on
Great
this-
guidance.
on the comments being the, the way of the future and getting support in this area. So,
Oh, I
good
think,
point.
as Devon said, these students think they've got it, and when they realize they don't, they really don't know where to go. And I think the Commons, if they'll feel comfortable there, is the place for them, and we need to put that on all the campuses so they know they can go there and say, look, I'm defeated, help me out.
We just have to make sure they're effective in the comments.
Well, you talk about the commons, I'm not worried about that part. I mean, we got somebody here who's put one of those together pretty good, so. I always judge these kids when I see them. I ask them what's going on. In fact, and I hate to put Mr. Brett on the spot, I was out at Bella Bravo one night and had about a 45-minute conversation with his own son, and he was telling me some of his difficulty with the campuses and maneuvering through. So I think we got a good starting point, and we just got to get the data to support it, and we'll get it done.
Okay, this next slide, I kind of refer to this as the 25-50 rule. 25% of our students are taking all of their classes online. Last spring, that was 25.1%. And almost 51% are taking at least one online class. That was 49% last year. So that has rung true for the last at least year, I think longer. But something that you might want to know just as you're in the community, talking about our online population of students.
When you say 25% are taking all their classes,
yes,
does that mean they never come on campus?
No, it does not necessarily mean they don't avail themselves to our services on campus, but their instruction is all online.
Is it because they have to work, or they just prefer to go online?
There's a lot of reasons. Could be work. It could be scheduling, that they can't find a face-to-face course that meets their schedule.
That it worries me when we get that 25% that we never really see or never get in touch with an instructor or have any other. I assume they're not having any association with any other students, and there ought to be a way, whether we do it on the weekends or something, to have some way for students to get a little bit of college life, because sitting there in front of a tube does not broaden you personally and your personal skills.
I'm sorry.
And I just wonder if there's a way, and probably the only time to do it is scheduling would have to be on weekends, to make something available to those students so they get a little bit of the social atmosphere. Because sometimes your college friends are your buddies for life, and you run into them throughout the world, and there is your support system sometimes.
I'd rather make your case. You're making exactly the right case. I think we would be wise to understand how much effort faculty put in to creating a dynamic among and between the students, okay? It's almost impossible to have a successful course if students aren't interacting with each other as part of the course, as well as interacting with you. Now, the face-to-face kind of social environment is a different animal, and of course, students can be anywhere. Again, a lot of students they breathe a little different air than you and I do, Dick. That interaction online meets a lot of their emotional needs for starters, okay? I'm not trying to make one case or the other. These students get access to support as they need it. Again, we'll be sure to find occasion to have some of our very best faculty talk about how they nurture communications among them. Many are, as Mrs. Bilirakis points out, working adults for whom their social life is pretty well determined for them and that sort of stuff. It's never all or anything, but 25% is a big number, 8,200 students.
That is a big number, and it just worries me about, not worries me, I just could say that they're not getting any of the social aspects of a college. And to me, college always was both academics and social skills. And if there's a way to do that, because we do have facilities we close down on the weekends, is there some way to utilize those that might be available to those students?
I don't know. These young people communicate so differently now. I mean, everything's so different. It's just.
Let's
I
get
think
through
that's
this and
the way
talk about that this afternoon. I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of guidance
Yeah.
we need. What are the kinds of things we can put together that, we'll try some new things to see what works. I need to bring some faculty input in, the people who talk to students on a regular basis. I'm a little out of my league here.
Yeah.
Okay, this slide shows the head count increase, the academic organizations or academic departments with the largest head count increases year over year. The business, upper division business administration was a relatively new program, so they're at the top there. You'll see most of these are lower division academic departments that represent the general education courses.
I think this is the slide that stunned me in the walkthrough. If we're putting out 800 additional students in upper division math and 500 in low division math, hallelujah. I mean, that's a very meritorious kind of commitment. Very impressive.
Are these the classes that will produce jobs?
Well, if they're in the baccalaureate programs, definitely, because those programs are geared toward work. So that's a very good indicator there, I would think, Mr. Johnson. And then the mathematics are going to be, they could be job-related. I don't have the detail as to which courses. My guess is it represents a continued strengthening of our transfer function. I think that's more likely there. Okay, but the upper division is very clearly that.
And then, as with the fall term, we wanted to show you, in terms of generated student semester hours, the top 10 courses. For the spring term, we actually had 983 courses make, and out of those, these 10 represent 27% of the total student semester hours.
That was 983 out of 983, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Distinct, 983 distinct courses we're offering. All right, so in summary, 10.3% increase in part-time students, a large increase in our baccalaureate and workforce students, students that are wanting to continue, not taking a gap in attendance, 26% increase in African-American students, older students, online, growth in online, and growth in financial aid recipients.
Let's hang on one second, Mr. Chairman, if I could. In the interest of time, the first time in college spring is a very small group, and I suggest that we just leave that for another day. The cohort one, though, is what happened to the students who entered last fall, and that's the one I think is the most important guidance for us as a leadership team.
The retention?
The retention, right.
Yeah, that's the one that concerned me most of all.
We'll pull that one up.
Can I ask a question, though, about the first time?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out, and I'm just trying to be dutiful here.
No, I understand. The chart on page 6, I just didn't understand that chart. So can I just get an explanation of what it means?
Certainly, Mr. Burke. This chart represents students who took the CPT between those dates that you see there in the footnote, September 15th through January 7th. And what percent of them, based on their testing, need first level English prep, second level English prep, and so on. So 50%, 52% of our students that tested in that time frame that are new to the college this spring are at college level English. They're taking Comp 1. But that's not true for math.
Holy smokes, okay, I didn't realize. So only 11% of the students who come to us are ready for college math? Is that what this is saying?
The 11 plus the 2.8% there to the right.
13.8.
So 13.8.
We just want to do that math to show we know how to add. We're ready. But no, that's a crisis.
Yeah.
How many first-time
Wow,
students
that's
do we get?
This
I mean-
spring, we had 1,400. In the fall, we had 3,600.
Where are they going? Where are they going, online? Are they going online or other colleges or what?
I'm talking about the students that came to St. Pete College.
Yeah.
We had 3,600 in the fall, 1,400 in the spring, and it's a mixture.
Yeah.
That data is in this presentation.
Dr. Law, are these statistics, we're assuming they're coming from Pinellas County, that we should be sharing with the school board?
I'm going to pull up, we got a report last week. Is Tom still here? While we're doing this, Tom highlighted, we got a report on where students go from Pinellas County. And let's get that up. It's a stunning report as to the nature of the challenge. For the universities, stay tuned, 97% of the students are college ready. For us, the number was, I forget, 25% or, let's get that, we'll get that up. So the challenge for us, I'm so proud of the work we do, but it's real work. This is
another
We're
slide
a
for
college
Tallahassee
prep
with
school.
legislators. I mean, this is a shocking slide to me.
It is.
I'm going to get this other one and show to you this afternoon.
just-
I'll pull it up so we can
And
see.
just so I understand, maybe the other board members have, the level 1 means that they need the most help?
Yes.
So how many courses are we talking about, let's say for math, a level 1 to get to college ready? Are we talking about 2 semesters?
Two courses prior to
So 2 semesters,
intermediate
and probably they're
algebra.
sequential, you can't take, and how about then if you're level 1, does that mean level 2, does that mean only 1 course is needed to get you up to par? Is that a good general rule, Ann?
This,
Wow.
to me, would mean
With their high school.
that we have a bigger challenge because the students we have are not prepared.
Absolutely.
And if we want to maintain the same graduation qualifications, we have a long way to bring them. And I would question that someone might say, well, your graduation qualifications probably aren't as good as the university system because you don't have as good incoming students. And I don't know how we prove the fact that we start with less, but we produce the same results. I've seen statistics years ago that showed community college students achieved the same grade point averages at the state universities when they transferred in. And I think that's the only way one way we can show that what we really accomplish.
Mr. Johnson, I think you're right. On statistics from our college, especially with this completion agenda, we need to measure when a student becomes college ready, do they graduate?
Yeah.
Now, we have to help them get college ready.
Right.
And we need to make sure we're not minimizing that, because I'm not certainly minimizing that. I want to put a tremendous effort into it. But we need to also, we just can't take them from, like Dr. Law said, if 97% of the university students are college ready when they get there, we need to measure from the point of college ready to see if they complete. Because we're losing a lot of students who get very demoralized taking basically non-credit courses.
There you go.
And spending time just to become college ready so that they can succeed as a college student. Mr. Gibbons.
I think you're right on point, Mr. Chair. I would also tell you that it brings me right back to what we talked about in the data. We need that data-driven report, whatever it is, long-term, because I think what happens is, and I'm not sure, you may want to ask Dr. Cooper or Dr. Williams or Dr. Renard here. I think what happens is a lot of these young people, and the reason I asked about the online success like how successful these people are, young people are in these courses, is because I think what happens is we accept them based upon what's on their transcript. So we're under the impression that most of these young people that are coming in are ready to go to work. When they get to college, they get in these courses and they bomb. And so then you talk about just the 2 semesters for math. Then they're behind the 8 ball. They're trying to go back and make up all this stuff. So I know we test them. I do know that. Some of them will pass out, but I don't think they're really prepared still. I think they're not at that point that you're talking about college ready. So that's why I said we really need to have the data to support what we're doing.
Mr. Chairman, the report, and we'll pull it up, but just for this discussion, 2009 latest, percent scoring at or above cutoff in all 3 subjects. So everybody college ready, at or above. Pinellas County students going on, Pinellas County only, 95.1% for the university students are at college level or above. Okay,
In
95.
Pinellas County.
In Pinellas County, the universities.
That are going to university.
If they go to university, 95% of them are ready for college level.
Okay.
For the community colleges, 46%.
Wow.
Okay,
In
so
Pinellas?
in Pinellas. So more than half of the students who come to us are not ready.
And this is
for
not the
college.
bachelor K through 12, this
No,
is just to
this is
show
just the
the
facts.
obstacle that our students have to get to the point of being successful.
Do we have many bright futures
Yeah.
enrolling here? Because they're the ones that are coming out of high school with a high grade point average, and they're getting accepted and getting scholarship money going on to a university.
Yeah, this, again, our institution does really well. I suppose we can find numbers that are even more egregious than that for how students get where they're going. But it does show, we get paid the same, people have the same expectations, and they start with students who are a year ahead of our students in preparation.
Right.
And again, I'm very proud of that challenge.
It's a great challenge. I just want to be sure as a board member that when they graduate, they may have started lower. Whatever it takes, we've got to bring them up to the same standard as any other institution with a 4-year bachelor program.
And Ms. Jones, that's exactly why we're doing this cohort tracking that you see us headed for. So we can understand what are the factors, what are the patterns that support success and retention, or we can intervene for students who look. We don't have enough information on that yet, and we're learning as we go, and that's why this is very valuable. We're sorting out, what do we know, what questions, what insights do board members have for us? So,
Dr. Law, I know the time constraints on our legislators between now and the start of session, which is what, the second week of March, is great. But even having said that, and even if we could only get half of them or the other half just to send their representatives, since they're not going to be in session when FACC planned Tallahassee, why not have the board here meet with our legislative delegation for 1 hour, ask them to come, and we maybe can send a survey right now of when most of them can be here, and get together with them and give them like that type of data going into this session when they're going to be thrown all types of things and oh look, community colleges aren't successful, and then when you show them a slide like that, they oh wait, my community college, half this, are taking students who aren't prepared, they'll know better. And I mean, we're missing this great education opportunity by them not being up there that week when we go visit them. That's the type of thing we kind of go over with them. Either that or else plan another week while they're there for us to go up there.
Well,
I think, and go visit them. We can't miss that opportunity. There's 58 new legislators up there in Tallahassee. And I can tell you, Devron's been a heck of a lot more, you've been a heck of a lot more than I ever have, and Evelyn has, but I am shocked at committee meetings because so many times they govern by anecdotal story. And you're sitting there in the audience after the public comment time is gone, and some legislator brings up, well, my community college, I saw these statistics, and we'll bash something. I'm not pointing to a real example. And all of a sudden, this committee passes something which is based on bad information to begin with. And it's just you sit there and it's infuriating to do, and it's our fault for not educating our folks enough before they get up there. I'm not blaming us, I'm just saying, you just see it happen time and time again. that something gets passed just because of one legislator's bad information story, which gets brought up in committee, makes sense, and it gets, sorry, Senator Jones and Representative Long, but you know that happens, right?
Senator Jones
I
had
mean,
the
so-
benefit of being on the higher ed committee in 78, 79, and we schooled him really well on this stuff.
Do you think
Mr.
we could
Chairman.
arrange something like that?
I think the idea of holding an all-hands-on-deck meeting is it's worth pursuing. Let me see what we can do. I will tell you, I intend to use this information as my opening discussion with the St. Pete Times editorial board, who I'm meeting with a week from Friday. I mean, this is background information in our community that's fundamental to understanding our role and mission.
Would you, as a board, be committed to trying to make a session like that if we're able to make with our legislators? Okay.
Ken, in your position, would it be possible to write the other chairpersons?
Sure.
And ask them to do the same thing?
I think so.
Because we're not going to get the opportunity we've had before, and it's even difficult when you go to Tallahassee.
Right.
But I love the idea, we used to do that here. We used to invite our legislators in for an hour or 2 hours and at least meet them here on our campus. And maybe at the same time, you could issue an invitation to the leadership roles of the House and the Senate, even the governor. Why not invite them?
Doesn't hurt, you could always invite.
We can always invite. If they don't come, they don't come, but.
And he has a private plane to get
If
here.
you do it on
Yep.
February 3rd, the governor will be in town.
January 3rd.
If you do it February 3rd, around February 3rd, I know the governor will be in St. Petersburg. He's coming to speak at the chamber luncheon.
Speak on workforce. We could have a workforce part for him. Dr. Law?
I don't think.
I think we should do this. I mean, but I will tell you, if I were gonna do this, Mr. Chair, I would ask that you include Senator Jones in how you do it, because he's gonna know the scheduling, and Ms. Long, and they're gonna be able to get to these folks to help Kim get this done. Because, you know, the delegation has a lot going on. They're gonna have a lot of meetings and a lot of things, and if you can't get all of them, just get the bulk of them, what we can get, and move forward. The other thing is, I'm not necessarily worried about the Senate. You got this Senator Jones over there who's masterful. I mean, you know, along him and J.D. Alexander, I think are the best two senators the state has seen in a long time. So, but the House, you're right. There's so many more new members over there that we're going to have to educate some of our delegation members so that they don't let these other folks do the things that you're talking about.
Dr. Jones, do you think this is possible to do?
Yes, sir, we're really only gonna be here maybe 2 weeks between now and sessions, and 3 weeks of any meeting in February. At least 2 weeks between now and then here as a delegation. I'd have to check with Representative Chris, who's now the delegation chairman, to see what obligations they're already obligated to. We do meetings just like this, as you know, with lots of groups, county commissions. I think doing it with the college is a good idea. It's just that time-wise now, time's running out. The other alternative would be is if you did it during a committee week in Tallahassee, at least when one or two of you maybe would come, we could do it during the noon hour in the committee room.
That's an idea.
That's a good idea.
The whole delegation would already be up there anyway.
That's the way to do
What,
it.
we're not going to micromanage. We'll work this out, but you see our idea, Dr. Law. I think, especially since that February's not working out like we had planned for FACC.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think if we try to do it in Tallahassee, it could be very effective. I do think we need to get the commitment of at least 3 board members to go, 1. 2, and we need to be very specific about the data we present.
Sure.
Because I know Senator Jones will tell you, if you try to talk about 45 different issues, it's going
be
to fall on
focused.
deaf ears. We need to be very focused on what we're going to talk about.
And we need our little embossed cards that we
Yeah.
usually, cards that get them.
I think-
And we need to work with you to make sure everything gets public noticed, every place it could possibly be public noticed. Here, Tallahassee, all stops in between.
But I think maybe the Tallahassee idea is much better. Invite them to a breakfast.
Well, we
or
can't,
something.
we have to be very careful. They need to work that out.
Okay, but I mean, somewhere where they.
We can't pay for anything.
I know. We can charge them for breakfast.
Mr. Brett?
Dr. Law, the statistics that you were just reading to us regarding Pinellas County, just out of curiosity, do you know or do you have any recollection of like statistics in Leon County when you were up at TCC?
In fact, I don't, but the statistics allow us to, we're going to try to get it on the website, and you can pull up any county you want for any year that you want,
I would
okay?
be
And
very
take
much
a look.
interested to see
They're going to be lower.
how Pinellas rates.
They're going to be lower.
That's good point.
But I don't know where they took my
Yeah.
computer, otherwise I could answer your question, okay?
Okay,
Let's pull
any
it.
more, I know on this first time, did anyone else have a question on that one? Okay, now we're on the cohort. And let me just say, for the interest of the people here, I know most of you are regular attendees at these meetings, but just so you know, at times the board looks messy in our proceedings. But this is our only time to talk. We're not allowed to ever talk in private, so nothing gets worked out in advance of these meetings. So in coming up with these brainstorming or ideas, you know, this is our only time to do it. And so at times it doesn't look as maybe as organized as it should, but there's no agenda which we're allowed to do that doesn't meet in the public eye. So I just want to, you know, let you know why these discussions are the way they are, because it's the only time we're allowed to do this. Go on with the report, Patrick.
Well, before you leave
Oh, I'm
this,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I think to be realistic, most of the prepared students, by their own design, are probably going to be heading off to an institution that's not St. Petersburg College. I don't think we're ever going to be able to say that 100% of our students are prepared. We are an institution that's kind of an institution that gives somebody a second chance. And will probably always be that way.
That's right.
Because we're not considered a university, even with a bachelor's program. So we're never going to get over here to where we'd like to be. So I think we're always going to have a certain amount of role of called remediation, if you want to say it that way. But I think all people come to St. Petersburg College probably for a lot of reasons. Some of them are not ready to go. Some of it's economics. A lot of it's economics. A lot of them feel they aren't prepared, and they know it, and they know that we can bring them up to a standard. So for us to try to make ourselves into something that we're not, I don't think we should try to reach for that. We have a role to fill, and we're doing a good job of it, in my mind, because our graduates are coming out, and from what data I've read over the years, they're just as compatible as the native students, I call them, who enroll as freshmen.
Right.
So we need to tout that. We need more information on that if we had it, because that's a good selling point. Plus, a lot of students have to live at home. A lot of it, you'll find them, we have
And they work.
They work, and they need the economics of it. They don't have the support
That's
to
right.
go off to a college.
Dr. Bernard? Oh, Mr. Lang, he's going to give us a testimonial, because I think students.
I'm not sure it's my role, but I couldn't help
always
but
your role.
rise to Dick when he said that. My experience has been actually that the university's approach to lower division education actually puts our community college education ahead of those
Amen.
students going into upper division.
Yeah.
And if that premise is correct, I think it's one that's beautiful for the community college system.
We don't have graduate assistants
You know-
teaching classes of 500 people.
Mr. Lang, that comment you made, would you say that in that information that you got in the past, is that because the young people that come to St. Petersburg College or colleges like ours get more instructional hours with the professor than at the University of Florida or South Florida?
Without question, and from professors who want to teach.
That's right.
As opposed to do research and writing. And I think it makes a huge difference.
It does.
What you just said, I think, is a very important point. Our professors are in the teaching profession and not particularly in the publishing or writing profession. That's not what their satisfaction is coming by taking that student and molding them and moving them forward. And I have to laud our faculty because there are different, we are a teaching institution. We're not a research institution. We're conveying knowledge and trying to impart that to students and move them forward.
Dr. Bernard?
Okay, you might recall that in the fall term, we had 3,647 new students, degree-seeking students. And of those, 3,066 were enrolled last Monday morning. 84% retention rate. That's pretty good. I don't have any national data. Most of the national data is on fall to fall, not fall to spring. But I did see some data from individual colleges that range from the low 70s to mid 80s.
So what you just said, you think this is a good percentage?
I do.
This alarmed me when I saw that small retention. I know the first semester, first year in college, there's a huge drop-off, because I experienced that when I was going to college. It just isn't for everybody. But is there something that we can do to make that percentage go higher for us? Is there something that we're doing or not doing that we could be doing to increase that percentage?
This is one of the items I want to steer us to this afternoon, but let me say this. We can improve the orientation process. We can improve the number of contacts that we have with the students in the first few weeks. We can continue, if a student had a defined learning plan, that would help.
Yeah.
I think there are this is a very good number considering that we haven't, no, I'm sorry, we have good energies. I think as we focus our energies, we have reason to expect this number will go up.
Dr. Law, let me just say this. If we were keeping 85% of our employees at my company, we'd be doing great. This is a good number. And we need to, we can improve in every area. That will always happen, but 84% is a pretty good number. And I look back here at the retention rate across the board in terms of race and ethnicity. You're doing it with a limited amount of staff. Remember that as well. There are areas that we can very well improve, but 84% that's a big number. And take into consideration that the economy is coming back a little bit and people are going back, some people are going back to work. So you got to take that into consideration as well. But I think, Mr. Johnson, I know that may have alarmed you, but if I could keep 84% of my employees, we'd be doing a lot better.
Well, I'm not saying it's alarmed me. It concerned me because if we can do better, then we need to figure out how to do better.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that's causing, if we're doing something that we're not doing something that we could do, then we need to address that. And I'm sure, Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, we're getting into this afternoon's discussion, but to me, it all runs together. And I think this information is extremely helpful and
Frankly, I agree with Deborah, and I'm shocked that the part-time student retention is as strong as it is. I would expect a tremendously bigger drop-off there, because that's historically has been a big indicator. That if you're full-time, you succeed. If you're part-time, the chances of success are a lot more remote. Well, they're not that much more remote. It's only less than 7% different.
And that is the population of students that's harder to engage, so there's work to be done there.
Well, our president's on the workforce board of the state. He can tell you some of these emerging industries that we saw as emerging industries are coming back and hiring people now.
Good.
Okay, this shows by degree objective the retention rates, pretty comparable between the AA and workforce. The undeclared population, those are students who came to us in the fall that said, I want to be degree seeking, but they haven't fulfilled some of their obligations. They haven't taken the CPT test. They haven't provided transcripts, et cetera. So that's a defined target that we can go after.
Yep, and we need to.
Almost 90% of our full-time students receiving financial aid were retained, and 88% part-time retained.
That's good.
This, as Mr. Gibbons alluded to, this is some great news, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
the retention rates with our African-American students and our Hispanic students.
Colorblind, pretty much.
It is. And I attribute this to the great work of the Student Support Services Program, the Summer of Success Program. I think there's been an expansion of tutoring services at downtown, Midtown. And then by age, we did see a drop-off there on our 22 to 25-year-olds.
That might be just from employment there.
The next one's the problem one.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think now that we have a fully implemented mail outreach program, we should expect this to increase in the future with males.
I'm going to keep testing, though. I think our program mix works against us in this as well. I think we're very strong in nursing, in education, in areas that have, for better or worse, historically been seen as female employment.
Yeah.
And that 22-year-old guy coming back to us needs to know what he's headed for before.
So more defined goals.
More defined goals, yep. That's the theory I'm working on, but I can't tell you.
More structure.
If they know, here's what I'm headed for, here's what it's going to take, here's how I'm going to get there, I think we'll see a difference. If they're wondering, it's not.
Deborah, I'm going to recognize you. I'm sorry. I just want to, it's interesting, again, we go to these national conferences to learn something and bring back. The big message that is it, the one out of Indiana, the great mammoth one out of Indiana, I forget the name of the college. Ivy Tech is saying is that a lot less choices in education, narrowed down, instead of a person being able to take all these different courses, structure them more, and you're getting better success rates by creating more structure in the education. Whether that's, Dr. Law, whether you buy into that or not, I don't know, but that's what they're claiming is one of their successes, that they're telling a student, these are the courses you need, defining them better, putting them in a cohort as much as possible so they move along and there's some peer pressure to succeed and on these courses, and that's what's worked with nursing in the past. I mean, you're in a cohort in nursing, you succeed with your class, with that section who you all signed up with. With the general ed, we don't have that same temperament, and they're saying, put that temperament into general ed, and you'll have the same success as you have when they define programs.
Mr. Chair, I think in a couple of years, we all are gonna look back and look at what we're doing at Gibbs High School, and we're gonna be able to track how we do this a little bit better. I was with Ms. Mobley, who's over curriculum for Gibbs this weekend, and we had a conversation about where they've gone, where they come from, and where they're at. And I think the thing that she said that was most important for minority students is they felt like they had a place to go to, as before they did not. They didn't feel like they had any hope or any opportunity, especially the black males, did not feel like they had a place to go. I think what we're doing at Gibbs High School will be the blueprint for a lot of these colleges like us across the state, because now she says the young people say, you know what, St. Pete College is here. I think Watson Haynes can tell you that. He went out there and one of the students says, you know, colleges are going to come now because they know St. Pete College is here. You know, and I think a lot of what you will see long term, we're going to have the answers for it.
Dr. Menard?
Last slide is, of course, instructional method, and it shows we have some work to do with the online-only students. It's a smaller population students.
Getting back to Mr. Brett's question, how does this compare to other colleges, do we know?
I do not know, and find out.
Okay.
And in summary, saw an increase in our part-time students, yet they have a lower retention rate, a slightly higher retention rate for workforce students, higher retention rate for those receiving financial assistance. Good news about the minority students, and lower retention rate with males. But we have work to do there.
Could these part-time students, I don't know what's in this mix, so if you have a student that wants to take one or two classes and they come, and then they leave because they've fulfilled their mission in taking one or two classes. That obviously, if we have students like that and they're part-time, that would tend to lower the retention rate.
Mr. Johnson, they wouldn't be in the cohort to begin with because we're starting with degree-seeking students.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, good, thank you.
Dr. Bernard, I want to thank you for this presentation. I think the board spent a good amount of time on this, but this is obviously something which Dr. Law, as part of his program, wants the board to spend a lot of time with, is in the student engagement on these. And for us to make decisions, we need the facts, and we appreciate you bringing these statistics and facts to us. Thank you for your work on this. Excellent job. Any questions on item B, on the bids? I want to compliment the staff. I'm not sure if you've always done this, and I've just missed it, but the different levels of exemption, and then you cite the exemption reason. They're all H this time, but that was very helpful. I appreciate that. Any questions from any of the other board members on B? Let's go to item C. Any questions?
We have to approve it.
It's information
B
only.
is information.
Oh, excuse me.
Item C. I just had a question on item 49. Could you tell me where that university is located, which country? That would be Karen White. Japan. If you just note that in the future, I would appreciate it. It's helpful to see which countries we have. And that one, I'm not familiar with that university. And the question on 74. And this is where food services for the downtown campus. Have we taken this approach in the past? I thought we've done a bid thing. This is the first I've seen where we've engaged an outside realtor that I know of, and I may be wrong.
Pick me up here, Susan. My understanding, we have, by lease agreement, we must lease that space, right? For us, we have a requirement owning the downtown campus that there be retail space of some footprint. Susan?
Yes, it's in that kind of a redevelopment area downtown. So if you look at the bottom of Progress Energy, the new building, for instance, you've got the Five Guys and some retail space. So we have the same requirement, a certain percentage of our square footage has to be retail. We took this approach because we felt that there were some opportunities because of the extent of people interested in food service and the possibility of getting customers that were not just necessarily college customers, but we've got a much better visibility in that particular area than we do at all of our other sites. So this was a way to go that would allow us to have folks show some interest in this. In addition to that, we have found that this person has helped us with food service vendors at other universities locally and around, and USF in Tampa, that have some, that look pretty interesting to us. So we're hopeful that they will come to the table and talk to us, because it's a pretty good opportunity right downtown.
This would be strictly a landlord-tenant relationship?
This would be a landlord-tenant relationship. We would be leasing them the space. And the specifics related to that, how much rent they pay, whether we pay the utilities, how much of the build-out they pay, whether we purchase some of the equipment, all of those would have to be worked out, and you will get different, different vendors will come in with different plans, as you can well imagine.
Okay.
You know, I wonder, I hate, in a lot of ways, there's such limited amount of space downtown. Could we ask for an exemption from the city from that?
Well, one of our needs downtown is food service for our own students and staff. So we look at this as a positive for us. And additionally, we may get some revenue from it if it's successful, and we think that it will be.
Well, there's so many food services downtown, and they seem to come and go. For us to go into a competition, there's a deli right around the corner, and there's just food services up and down the line downtown. Unless we got one of those, that would, maybe this would be a sublet of their facility.
I'm happy to talk to the people downtown. It's about 2,500 square feet, I think, is what we're talking about. And it borders, it faces the park, so that's where we're talking about the location.
Well, see, that could be used by American Stage too for food. the symphony's upstairs, but they just have a staff. But I wonder if that's the best use for our space when we're crowded anyways for student facilities, because we're limited downtown.
We can certainly have that conversation with the city staff and determine.
And if we needed food service, we could probably contract with one of the downtown providers. I would think they'd love that opportunity.
You would think that they would. Let's just see, I mean, we haven't been as successful with the downtown folks as we had hoped to be. And as you mentioned, people do go in and out of business down there, and they move. They're there for a couple of years and then relocate somewhere else.
Is there any obligation on item 74 that we pay RE/MAX anything unless they secure a tenant?
That I cannot answer. Can you answer that question? I can't answer that right now, but I can get back to you with that answer.
Thank you. Any other questions on item C? Okay, we'll move forward. Is there a
motion? I'll make a motion. We approve item C.
I think that's information only too.
Information.
It is, excuse me.
Is there a motion to accept all of item D?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Does anyone have any questions on item D? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve item E?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gibbons, seconded by Mrs. Bilirakis. Now, questions?
Questions?
I just have on, to be quite honest, I don't remember this ARC3 architecture firm.
Hello?
But is that, have we given them much business? I know this gives us a license to give them business, and we have given the business, had the license before, but have we actually awarded projects to them, and how significant has it been?
They're not significant at all, actually. They're a college-wide miscellaneous architect for us. The thing that they have done for us most recently is the old JWB building that we are considering purchasing off 606th Street. They've done a really nice job in working with Phil Nicotera and the staff to determine exactly what can go in there and what that looks like.
And how about the same with Griner? Have we significant amount of business been awarded them?
Not a significant amount of business with Griner either. They are mechanical contractor. We use them for some lead work with us and any minor issues that we might have.
I would like to point out on item 5 that the lease with Congressman Young, I believe he's consolidated all his district offices into this office, which is quite significant. That he used to have, that's a significant step on his part and speaks highly of our relationship there. The amendment to the Florida Orchestra, what happened here? How did we measure space improperly? Are we giving up? Why are they giving up these offices? Did we request this? Where did this come from?
The Florida Orchestra has downsized over the last several years, so they had 11,000 square feet up there. These are spaces that are on their back end of their square footage that they have, and so they've been vacant for a while.
So they came to us and asked for a reduction?
We went to them and said, we have some needs for space. We noticed that you are not using them. We would like to use those spaces.
How long is that lease?
That lease is probably
50 years?
for 40 years or.
Okay.
But we can definitely use the space.
We can definitely use the space, and they actually have more space that's vacant there that they're not using. It's just not as conveniently located as these particular spaces are. We can use these without disrupting them, and they can run their operations without disrupting us.
Item 7, Mrs. Bilirakis had a question earlier, and I had several questions on this. Dr. Law, I think it would, this group has made an appointment with you for next week. They couldn't get a guest done beforehand. Can we pull this item?
Please do.
And then I think it would be disingenuous for the board to vote on it, then you meet with them.
My recommendation is that we postpone it till next month, and we'll find common ground.
Can the maker, who made the motion and seconded it?
I did.
Mrs. Bilirakis, second. Would you mind changing your motion just to approve items 1 through 6 and ask 7 be postponed until next time?
I move that we postpone item 7 and approve 1 through 6.
Is that fine with you, Mrs. Bilirakis?
Sure.
To adjust that motion?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on these items? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve F and G? There's nothing in F, but just G, I guess. By Mr. Brett, seconded by Mrs. Bilirakis. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The financial report's there. Do you want to go over it, or should we looked at it and just ask questions? What do you prefer?
We ought to brag a little bit. This is as good as life's ever going to get.
Can we have it for next year, too?
I think so. You would expect, though, this is going to be sort of our best snapshot during the year. It's important just to see that we are sound, we're physically sound. We can control a little bit of our destiny going forward, no matter what they throw at us. So that's the dialogue that I want to have
And I think
this afternoon.
we need to applaud the staff on their good
Absolutely.
budgeting, because the budgeting figures for actual year-to-date are right on target. So, I mean,
We're working it.
but do you wish to add anything more? I don't
No,
want
sir.
to, I'm not rushing you through this.
Nope,
I
Questions?
had a comment,
Mr. Johnston.
because I talked to Doug about this earlier. When we see a large variance in the right-hand column, I think a narrative would be beneficial to us, even to the non-accounting people, to better understand what that variance was all about.
Can you point out to some of these that you had?
Well, the one we talked about last month, I got to get my glasses on to read this fine print. We have a negative of 2,000,007, and it's really a classification difference
Right.
of the way that it's being set
The
up.
way
Our
the state's
budget-
reimbursing us
Right.
now.
What'll happen next year, our
go
budget
right,
will be changed, but for a non-accounting reading that, or even any of the items that show a negative number, or even a strong positive number, it might be beneficial to just attach a page of narratives for all the non-nerdy accountants to look at to help understand the budget better.
Even for us nerdy accountants,
Do
it's
you-
helpful.
You know, we could do in fact, this is just a display, so we can display it however you want. I don't know if we even have to amend the budget to do this. So we could display all state appropriations, CCPF and baccalaureate as
Right.
one. It would net out the 3,000,008 and the 2,000,007. It'd be a more
Right.
accurate picture of where
Sure.
we are,
And
okay?
It's just a difference of policy.
We
not
talked
ours.
about that last month, but it doesn't make any difference as long as we understand it.
Okay.
And I think a narrative page, and Doug and I talked about it earlier before the meeting, would probably be more helpful to everybody just to look at that and say, oh, yeah, I understand that, and go on.
Any other
Page.
questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
A page.
Okay.
Not
Just
a book.
Not a book, no,
Yeah, I
just
mean, I
one
think most
page.
everybody understands this.
Any other questions on the financial report? No. Moving along, Mr. President, your report.
3 or 4 quick things, if you would. I did mention I will be meeting with the St. Pete Times editorial board week from Friday, and I will certainly share with you at least the topics I intend to try to raise. Who knows, you know, they'll raise whatever they're disposed to raise. Looking forward to that.
Give them our love from the board.
I'll do that.
And Dr. Law,
From Mr. Burke, not me.
No, it's the new era of civility. We're gonna emphasize the new era of civility, Mr.
Yeah. You might take along, if you still have it, that article that they published about the jobs and the pay, just to reiterate and support what's going on.
I'll be armed. I'll have my stuff and they'll have their stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. They've been very supportive
Sure.
of
That's
the
right.
transition and other things. I think we ought to just try to make sure they know where
right.
we're headed. So after today's work, it's very timely, very timely. That's one. Secondly, you did note, I've got 2 things that I'm very proud of. The appointment to the Workforce Florida Board is very important to me, and I got a note from Susan Ledvala to appoint me to the Pinellas County Economic and Workforce Board, and I'll accept both of those. They're both, I think, right in line with
Now,
where
when
we...
does the statewide come? Is that effective now?
Yes, it is. I've
Excellent.
been approved. I think all the forms you send in, all the ethics forms and all of that.
Congratulations.
So we're very,
That's
very
great
pleased
for the
with that.
college.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And lastly, just a heads up, we got a very nice invitation, 12 colleges nationally. We were invited by the Gates Foundation to visit with them in Phoenix on mid-February. Tandra Williams, Vice President Williams, and I will be going out, and it's exploratory. Where's the current thinking in the blending of online and and student support and the whole kind of things. But 12 self-regarding institutions, I think, is the way they describe it. So we'll see where that heads. It's a new initiative for them. So nice to be invited, and we'll continue to build on that.
Very good. I'm going to pass on to you an invitation from Baltimore Community College for their outreach. They're having an education session on their outreach, especially to males and minority males. And that may be something we want to send someone from the college up to. I'm not sure if you would take a look at it and see. Maybe be something good for Mr. Gibbons to go and get some ideas back.
I don't want to go to Baltimore. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
One of the great conferences is, of course, right across the bay. Our friends at Hillsborough have the Black, Brown, and College Bound conference.
Do we have folks coming to that?
We're very engaged with that. Ken Atwater and I are.
When is that going to be?
We'll have to give you that. It's upcoming. It's imminent in February, okay? But it's really getting a national reputation.
Is that appropriate for a board member to go to that?
We'll get you the schedule. You can make your own decision.
I mean,
but we'd be
that's
delighted
something-
with that.
Oh, you go to that.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mr. Gibbons would represent this board, that'd be tremendous.
It's starting to be best practices and great sharing. And
that's right at home here.
I suspect President Atwater is going to push it to a new level too. So let's get you the info, but it's a good conference. I'll look at the Baltimore stuff. I'm very anxious there.
Future agenda items, sir. Our board members, I guess that's all of us.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything you want to place on a future? I didn't mean to cut you off, Dr.
No, I'm
Moore.
all
Was that all
set.
your-
Don't forget, we have the St. Pete Collegiate High School. We elect the cabinet today.
Well, also, Dr. Law is appearing before the
Tiger Bay
on Friday, this Friday.
Yes, sir.
And he's making the rounds, and I think that's good for the community to get to know him and vice versa.
Mr. Chair, did we get a table for that? Can we?
I sent in my reservation. I have tough questions planned for him.
I think we should try to figure out to see how many board members can attend that. I'd like to attend that. Kim, can you see if we can still get tickets for that?
Well, I'm sure we can.
Yeah, I'd like to go. I think we should go as a board to support him.
Okay.
I'm sending 2 faculty in my place.
Uh-oh. Okay, our next meeting date is February 5th.
15th?
No.
That's not right. This is not.
When is it?
Yeah.
Kim's like, it's wrong.
Yeah. I was going to say that date's not right. We're going to be
That's the first time I've ever seen Kim make a mistake.
the 22nd? February 22nd at the Clearwater campus. Please make sure that's noted on your calendars and change this on your agenda just in case you reference this. It's the 22nd of February. Any other additional business to be brought before the St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. We now call to order the St. Petersburg Collegiate High School Governing Board. And I would like to ask our star principal, Starla Metz, to please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman Burke, board members, Dr. Law, and colleagues. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and share some highlights with you on the Collegiate High School. And we're waiting for our PowerPoint. One of the things we're very proud of is our, there we go, our diversity. We are actively trying to seek more underrepresented represented students, and we have done more outreach. So we did a session at Academy Prep. I am doing a session next week at Thurgood Marshall. We've done sessions at Bay Point Middle, and we've done some community efforts to continue to have a nice, diverse student body.
Mrs. Metz, I was reading in the audit our authorizing language, and it said we were authorized to have 200 students, and I noticed this slide shows 211. How are we able to do that?
I don't get paid for the 11 students.
Okay.
But I take them in because occasionally we find students that come into our program and they realize once they're in the program, it really is not a good match. The Pinellas County Schools allows me to take a few extra students in. They know exactly how many students I have. They keep the additional funds, so we educate them and they get the money, but I think it's a win-win for us.
Obviously, not financially smart, but we're not breaking any rule by doing that. Is that correct? That's, as a governing board, maybe that's an appropriate question. We're not in violation, are we?
No, we are not, and the former principal always did the same thing as well.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
It's a practice. Some highlights for last year. We're really thrilled that for the second year in a row, 97% of our seniors earned both the high school diploma and the associate in arts degree. Our 60 seniors last year earned $1.6 million in scholarships. We continue to do well with Florida Bright Future scholarships, and we encourage our students to take the PSAT. It is mandatory at the junior level in hopes of them earning National Merit Scholarship recognition. Last year we had a semifinalist. One of the things we're really proud of is that 78% of our students earned an A and a B in all of the college classes taken. And that's important to us because we want our students to come in and not only get that AA, but have that AA with a high GPA so that as they continue their educational journey, they have all doors open to them.
Do we have any way to measure, since we've just been looking at charts with a lot of need for remedial, do our students take that same test so that we would know where they stand as far as entering students into our program?
Yes, sir, they do. That's part of the application process, and we actually use those CPT scores to individualize the instruction in the sophomore year in the pre-collegiate program. That's a critical part of what we do. We take them from where they are, right around 60, 65, and then we get them to where they need to be by state statute at the end of the sophomore year. So they need to have the qualifying scores to continue on in the program, and they have to have an unweighted GPA of 3.0 to go forward. So yes, we very much take a look at that information. And later in the presentation, we're going to talk about some of the interventions we've put in place to help those students be real successful. Okay. This is just our FCAT data for you to take a look at. These are some of the schools in Pinellas County we benchmark against.
Very impressive.
Thank you. We're very pleased with it. We continually try to refine our processes to ensure that our student achievement data is very high. We're really proud that we earned more points than any other school in the new grading formula and that we continue to maintain our A. In addition to academics, one of the goals that we are really focusing in on and we fully implemented this year is the new student leadership program. I really believe that in addition to the academic foundation that we're providing, we also need to look holistically at our students. And they need strong leadership skills, and they also need to further develop their social skills through some of the activities we do at the high school. So our leadership plan will focus in on them understanding their skills, their strengths, hopefully uncovering a passion that will lead to a career path. We also are doing business etiquette, dress for success, interviewing skills. We did Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and we're embedding community service for the Bright Futures Project. And all of that will be documented in a capstone project in their senior year on an online portfolio. So we're very pleased with that. We are tweaking it as we go, and we will continue to refine it each year to make it better and better for our students. Dr. Call has joined us. He's our curriculum specialist, and he's going to talk about our curriculum goals.
We have several curriculum goals that we do across the curriculum. The first one being writing skills. One of the things we identify our students is that they need help writing for the college level, not just for the FCAT, not just the 5-paragraph essay, but writing research papers, writing quick essays that they have to turn around in a week, that they have to edit themselves. So we really have to work on that. And lots of different types of writing, from responding to literature, to American history, to writing a science paper. And then also citing those works. So we do that across the curriculum. In addition to writing, we also need to work on their reading skills. Again, to get them to the point where they can read for college classes. And also take notes, do those things, so they can get the information from just the reading source. They're used to reading, then reviewing it with the teacher, then reviewing it again with the teacher, and that sort of thing. So we need to get them to where they can read, get the information themselves, take notes, prepare themselves for tests just from the reading. Another big initiative curriculum is technology. We've added 2 technology electives. We've also integrated technology much more throughout the curriculum. So every classroom has 25 computers. They use them. Chemistry uses them for online labs. English teachers use them right now as we speak. The students are creating wikis to review for their semester exams. So we made that a point. I think one of the things is, you talked about earlier, is sort of the myth of the technology great, teenager. They're really good at Facebook, they're really good at sending text messages, they're not really great at doing technology that they need to be successful in college or the workforce. You get a lot of questions about how basic functions in Word. They don't know how to do them, so we teach it to them.
Wow.
Same thing with Excel, PowerPoint. These are things they're gonna have to use in their college classes, and so we teach it to them explicitly. We don't just expect them to have it because they're teenagers and they're really good at Facebook. And the last goal that we're preparing for is we're going to have a SACS visit next year in the spring. And so the way SACS wants to do it is not to really think of it as a test, but think of it as a professional development activity. So we're all going to get training. The entire staff is going to get training. We're really going to look at it as identify areas where we're strong at, identify areas where we can need some improvement, and to do that as a staff and be prepared to talk about those areas when the SACS team comes. So those are our big areas for the goals for the upcoming year.
One of the things that we've realized our students need, because they are young, is a little extra support. And so this past year we hired an amazing teacher in our collegiate academic resource lab, and she is certified in English because writing is a for our students. And so in addition to being there every day to help support our students, we've also asked her to teach direct lessons in study and organizational skills, note-taking and time management skills, and in fact that was a part of our week-long orientation program for our sophomores this year. We also have National Honor Society students who are tutoring. We take advantage of the college support learning commons, and we have teacher tutoring after school 4 days a week at absolutely no charge. We also ask our sophomores, they enroll in either a college success skills course or a career and life planning, and they take some interest inventories, and the purpose behind that is by the end of the sophomore year we would like them to have an idea of what they think they would like to do as they continue their educational journey, whether that be at St. Petersburg College or whether that's going to be at a different college or university. That helps our guidance counselor and academic advisor fine-tune their educational plan so that in many opportunities they're getting some of those prerequisites out of the way. The students who are not meeting with our success, we do monitor them carefully, and we meet with the parents and the student, and we create an academic improvement plan. And they have mandatory time in the Collegiate Academic Resource Lab. They have to show the syllabi to our teacher in the lab and show results, because what we have found is they say they're doing fine, oh, we're doing fine, I'm doing fine, and then, oops, I'm not doing so fine. So when they have proven to us that they need a little more structure, we have put that structure in place. And then, of course, we monitor the credits for AA and high school diploma each term. A new initiative Dr. Call's going to talk about that we're very excited about that's been very effective in mathematics.
One of the things that we're seeing is that students struggle in some areas that they need to get ready for college out, but they don't come to us with those skills. And so we had them in Algebra 2, but then we saw in the CPT that they were still struggling in those areas, so we put them in the online courses that the college offers. And one of the things that we do is they're in the online class, but they're actually doing the work in the classroom with our high school math teacher. And so it really blends the best of both worlds, because the online program, you have to succeed in order to move on. If you don't succeed, then you have to go back and do it. So if they're deficient in any of those skills, the program will catch that and they have to go back and they have to be proficient in those skills. If they're struggling, they can just raise their hand, and then there's Mr. Walsh to help them. And so then they move on, they do well on the test. You can see by our passing rates, they do exceptionally well. And the thing is, they get excited about it, they get nervous about it when they go to see their semester exams, but we're there to give them the support so that they can succeed in those classes. And so it really is the blending, not only blending of the two, but it's the best of both worlds, and you can see that in the success. Another initiative is SAT scores. We want them to do as well as possible in the SAT. And so one of the things we did over the summer was partner with corporate training. We had 2 SAT classes. One we offered to our students was the normal one that they offered. Then we had one that was exclusive for our students, and so they could get that extra help on the SAT over the summer.
Do you have any results on those SAT scores with this additional help as to what they were?
They're still coming in because mainly it was our juniors that took it, so they're now getting their scores back. So we're going to look at that, and that's one of the things we're looking at is if we offered again this semester, is those results. So they're just now coming back on those results. But again, our students do well. We just want them to do better. A lot of our the students that took the class they were looking to get, they got a good score. They just wanted to improve that score, and that's why they were taking that class.
And if you'd like, we'll be happy to share that data for you.
Please do.
Sure, be happy to. I know we're a little short on time, so I'm going to skip over the next part because I'd like to share with you a video that one of our seniors put together at the end of last year. And I think students' words are much stronger than our words. Okay. Should go. There it goes.
I would like to thank the Board of Trustees because coming to the school has taught me a lot.
Through the school, I've learned responsibility and a lot of time management. You get your principal and guidance counselors to help you along, but you also get the freedom to make your own choices.
In this school, I feel like I can talk to the faculty, the staff, and other students to make my life easier.
It taught me how to better manage my time, how to think more analytically, and how to really care for others that I don't necessarily know as well, but we're all together in the community college atmosphere. Coming to the school has taught me a lot. It's taught me to present myself in a much more mature fashion and everything, and I've learned to communicate with adults better and to actually be responsible for my actions and everything I do.
The thing I like about the school the most is the amount of freedom we have. I feel that I'm not as caged in as I would be in a regular high school, and I think that gives me more leeway to think about what I'm really doing. There's not as much pressure as in a regular high school.
I think it's going to help me succeed faster, get a better job, and it's taught me a lot of lessons that I think most kids aren't going to learn.
He really only was a senior.
It really motivated me, and it's changed me, and it's made me realize that my dreams are a possibility, and I can work towards that. And through the classes I've taken at SPC, I've really learned a lot about myself and about what I want to do with my life, and I am very grateful for that, and I would like to thank SPC and the Board of Trustees for making that a possibility.
Here, your friends and you work together to get good grades, do on tests, and to push each other to do better.
Because being in the school means that I can go to college and earn the degree I want without putting an extra financial burden on my family.
I feel it's changed my life for the better in that because it's such a small environment and because there's such a limited number of students and you know the principal, you know the guidance counselors, you know the teachers, I just became more comfortable in becoming involved with my school environment because I knew the people who are going to be around me. That in the future I won't have to go to school for as long. I get to take off 2 years, and I've really learned a lot more about how the college system works, and so I'll be able to speed that up even more so.
It's helped me to become more independent and more understanding of people that are different from me.
The school is an amazing school with the most wonderful environment, and the staff and the people are very, very friendly.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any questions on their presentation?
Yes, I have a question, not on the presentation, because it was very nicely done.
Thank you.
People have been talking about extending high school and K through 12 hours. Is there a need in your mind for us to think about that at the collegiate high school?
I think with our graduation rate, I think we are on target. For those students who are struggling and who need that extra support in our Collegiate Academic Resource Lab, when they're on probation, they are required to be there Monday through Thursday from 8 o'clock to 2:30, except for when they're in class, and many of them stay there till 3:30 or 4 when we leave in the afternoon. So I do think that, yes, there might be, but right now our data is showing that we're really very successful. So I'd have to take a look at it.
But you are giving them the opportunity after the normal day to stick around if they need it.
Yes, sir. We provide tutoring after school 5 days a week. And we are there.
How do the students get to the campuses? Are they come by bus or some transportation that they provide or parents provide?
Parents generally provide transportation until they drive, and then our juniors and seniors, because they go to school 4 days a week, like a regular college student, they tend to drive themselves or carpool. I also provide free of charge for anyone who requests it, a public transportation bus pass. It's a 31-day bus pass, and there's, all the parents have to do is sign a form, because I want to make sure that the parents know I'm giving that bus pass.
And I just wanted to say something about Starla Metz. She was very helpful in working with personnel who were studying a collegiate-type high school over in Tampa. And I just wanted the board to know that she spent a lot of time with those consultants. And they really appreciated the time you spent with them, because you gave them all kinds of guidance. Because here was a I won't call it a collegiate high school, but it was a private type high school startup that was failing miserably. And the principals were trying to save it, and they contracted with some students, some professionals from University of Tampa, and Starla was very good in helping and working with them.
Thank you, Ms. Metz.
My pleasure.
Dr. Law, you had a comment?
No, I have one other item when we're finished,
Okay.
when we close this.
A job well done, Starla, Ms. Metz.
Thank you.
You guys do an exceptional job. Let me just say, I've watched from the sideline where students do struggle, and they have gone above and beyond to try to make it work. And to keep these kinds of numbers, that's what you're there for. And you've done that, and it's a job well done. You guys do a great job. And I don't think you can say anything more. The results were on the screen. I mean, you guys do exactly what you need to do. And, you know, it's a tough place, but it's fair. And the idea is to get young people out, you know, and you're getting them out.
Devron's comments are shared by the entire board, I would say. So we won't repeat them, but we want to thank you very much for that. We now need to move toward the budget for the collegiate high school for 2011 budget. Let me ask you some questions on this. Please don't interpret any of these questions as critical. I just would like explanations, because they are marking big contrast from the prior year. The workshop and travel for staff development, that's going up by over 3 times. Can you explain that?
Sure. One of the things that I think is important is continued professional development, and it's one of the areas that we're actually assessed on. A big chunk of that will be for the SACS workshop this summer. And so the entire team, 11 of us, will be going to the workshop, and we plan to build in there an extra day so that we can work together and be well prepared. And then what we're going to do is divvy up the work, and everyone will become an expert in one of the areas that they will assess.
Wonderful.
The other thing is that in terms of content area and also in critical thinking and technology, we have a small staff, and we have 3 new staff members who have not had a lot of professional development. And so I wanted to give them the opportunity to go to a conference of interest to them that was aligned to our school improvement goals, to try to build their level of expertise. And so it is high, it's purposefully high, it will not always be that high.
The SACS accreditation team, will they be from similar type of schools, or will they be from general high schools?
High schools, it will be.
They're not specific to collegiate type of high schools or IB programs or anything like that?
Not necessarily, it's a mix. Both Dr. Call and I are reviewers, we've gone through the training, and what happens is we get an email and we are asked, would you serve on this committee? And so we say yes or no, so it really is a mix.
The computer lease amount's going from $13,000 to over 4 times that amount to $55,000. What's the explanation for that?
We leased 60 new computers, and so what they do is they put that into the budget because it's encumbered funds. And we also added a Mac lab in the Collegiate Academic Resource Lab. And the reason we did that is the online portfolios, students want to embed some video and some high-end technology. It's a little easier for them to use a Mac to do that than the Dell. And we also think it's important that they have experience on both platforms, both Mac and PC.
Okay. So it went from 13,000 to 55,000 just for what you just described?
Yes, because they do the entire amount. They encumber the entire amount in this year's budget, even though we're not paying all of
Okay.
that. It is
Okay.
encumbered because it's a liability for us.
Okay, and the transportation, does that include, is that student transportation for these bus passes you talked about?
Exactly. And it's a little high, in all honesty. We weren't sure. We really significantly increased the number of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, which is an indicator of.
I see that from 17,000 to 50,000. So do we give them a voucher? Is that how that works?
No, what we do is we give them a lunch voucher, and that price went up because no longer could the amount go, but we give them that bus pass. And the cost of the bus pass went up, and the number of students who need that bus pass has gone up. So we went a little high just to be sure we had enough money. We are on track. We're not gonna use all that money, we know at this point, because we're halfway through the year.
But the students who are entitled to free lunch, is that part of that 50,000, and how does that work? We give them a voucher or not?
We give them a lunch voucher, that's part of the food line item.
Okay,
For $5 each day in the cafeteria,
okay.
and that's up from $3.75 last year.
So that's one of the biggies.
That's one of the
Okay.
biggies. And the transportation is $65 a month for a 31-day bus pass. And any student whose parent says it's a hardship, regardless of whether or not they qualify for free or reduced lunch, they get that bus pass.
Okay, so that's
Because
just
we
a
don't provide
self-qualifying
busing.
thing.
That
I
is a
get you.
self-qualifying item.
I take it the copier lease was only 1 month in the current year, and that's why it's gone from $456 to $5,000.
We purchased a new copier, and that's the total cost, I believe, of the copier. And so again, it's encumbered. Our copier was dying.
Okay,
It wouldn't
that's
work.
fine.
It was
Just-
really broken, so we bought a new one.
Is there a recommended reserve level by the state that we need to meet? And where are we compared to that, or is there not a recommended under charter schools?
To my knowledge, there is not a recommended dollar amount. However, if you look at the audit, they're very pleased with our fiscal responsibility and the level of reserves that we have. Ideally, it would be great to have 1 year's worth of operating expenses in a reserve account. That would be awesome, but I think in these economic times, that's not going to happen, and I think that we have a nice, healthy reserve fund. One of the things that.
Actually, we're not too far off that. We're 400,000
No, we're not.
off that.
We're very
I mean,
healthy.
it seems to me a very healthy reserve, but I didn't know if we're going to be criticized for that.
I was concerned about that, and so I actually questioned that when we were going through the audit process. Do we have too much? And I'm a very responsible fiscal manager. I don't waste money. On the same token, our students lack for nothing. They
Okay.
really do not lack for anything, but I don't want to waste money. So actually in the audit, I did talk to one of the auditors, and he was very complimentary of the fact that we had that high fund balance, knowing that probably funding is going to drop from the state.
Sometimes that's a target.
I understand.
Any questions on the budget? Is there a motion? Go ahead.
I
Did you have
think
a
you
question?
covered it extremely well. I'll move that we approve the budget.
The motion's been made. Is there a second? Mr. Johnston made it. Mrs. Bilirakis seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
We now have to approve the audit submitted by Gregory, Scher, and Stewart. First of all, I want to compliment you on the management letter, which the accounting firm sent on, on the compliance part of this, on every aspect. They said there were either no findings or recommendation. That's the highest compliment you can get from an auditor. We have no recommendations. There is no violations, and we have no findings of exceptions. And this is something, as a governing board and being a CPA, and Mr. Johnson, I'm sure, shares with me, those are the types of things you look for and in all of this. So it's a very, very healthy report. I have no questions on it. Does any board member have a question on it? Moved by Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Johnston. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I think that concludes the business that we have to take care of. Dr. Law, you had a comment to make.
I'd like to, if we finished with the school, I have one other item that I forgot. And I
not
not
with
on
the
this.
school.
No, I have one other item.
This meeting of the St. Petersburg Collegiate High School Governing Board is now adjourned. Thank you so much.
I did not get a chance to, we're going to do two things. Tomorrow, Commissioner Eric Smith is in town to review, to meet with the folks at Gibbs High School. So I expect that there may be some publicity on that. Watson is here. We have prepared a report that we want to hand out to you, And in the interest of time, I'd like to invite Watson back next month to walk us through all of what has taken place. But let me pass those out so that you have in your hand, it's an overview of what we've done, some numbers in it, just sort of an updated report on the work that we have done at Gibbs High School. And as you go through that, if you read from back to front, there's a long list of people at this college who have devoted some very considerable energy to make this work.
So we'll go over this report at our February meeting.
Yeah, we will, but I
In
want you to have it,
Clearwater,
because we may get some
22nd.
publicity tomorrow
Okay.
out of the commissioners' meeting, and I want to make sure you had something.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
To talk about logistics, what are we doing from here?
We're going to catch up, we're going to walk down to the collaborative labs. We're going to work for about an hour. We've got this scripted with Andrea in the lead to do a little different kind of review of the mission, but board members can participate just like you've done this morning. We'll take a break for lunch. We'll then process the work that you do in the next hour or so, and then we'll come up with a to-do list where we go from here. So we need to just walk down to the collaborative labs. As soon as everybody gets down there, we'll
I'm
reassemble.
sure we need to take a little break.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, we're going to take a break as we work down there. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
As we walk.